this before, so I'll go through some of the brief of what we're about, who we are, and what we do. And I'll do it this way. So we are CARIA, Central Alberta Real Estate Investors Association. We have a little bit of a disclaimer that our lawyers suggested for us to put up here. Basically, it says that all the information that we present to you is learned information, learned from legitimate resources, legitimate educational, investor sources, experienced professionals. Any reliance on it, don't, how do you say? You're releasing us from liability because there's so many uncontrollable circumstances such as economic factors and even after purchasing properties and due diligence. So, make sure you go to the right professionals for the right advice, and hopefully everything works out for you there. Today's agenda, we're going to go through audience introductions. Going to have our presenter, and then we're going to do Q&A at about 4 o'clock and do some deal presentations. Anyone that has a deal or opportunity that they want to present can come up or speak to what they have for a deal that they have. Some housekeeping. Washroom keys are at the front reception desk. They should be hanging on the side. You just walk past the cafe, down the hall, and they should be at the end of the hall there. Feel free to help yourself to snacks, drinks, water. There's a water cooler at the front of the reception, and coffee. And I think that's it for housekeeping. I thought there was one more thing. So for us, introductions. We have a mission to be the premier real estate investing association in Central Alberta. Principal focus on educating, networking, and offering creative opportunities to everyone local here. Or even for those that come in from Edmonton and Calgary, which we do appreciate because we try to give value out to everyone throughout Alberta with what we have to offer. Our vision is to create financial freedom through real estate and investing. We do have some sponsors that we are truly grateful for when it comes to supporting our group. We are a nonprofit, so we do look forward to getting as many drop-in members as we can, getting as many members that we can to help support us and help have these business help support us as well as an association. It really does help us acquire resources and tools and speakers from all across Canada when it comes to bringing that to us and then offering it back to you guys and to help keep us going as an association. So all of these sponsors help with an annual membership and kind of help keep us going. So any little bit, if you spread the word, keep us growing, then we can just offer that back in return. So some of our sponsors here, I'll bring Danelle up to explain a little bit about a couple that she has here.
Yeah, so I'll introduce our sponsors. So obviously myself, I sponsor CARIA. I love this organization. I'm so excited to be and proud to be a member of CARIA and on the board of CARIA. And we've got Cole's Electrical Services, and that is my husband, Alan Cole. So I got him on board to support CARIA as well. But if you do need any electrical services for any of your personal or real estate property, please do reach out to him. He's very experienced in renovations, that kind of thing. He does a lot of that kind of work. He also does, for First National, he actually handles all of their warranty work as well. All the electrical warranty work. So he goes out to a lot of homes under warranty. Of course, Cindy Julie, real estate executives. So again, if you need an amazing realtor, you guys all know Cindy. She is so familiar with the area and coming up with values. I love that she does calculations on rental numbers and all of that, right? She goes above and beyond analysis and that kind of thing. So please, CERTA property inspections. So he does home inspections. He's actually come out and spoken at some of our events and super, super knowledgeable. He does wet inspections,
sewer inspections.
Yeah, sewer inspections.
He's very thorough and detailed when it comes to that service.
Yeah. Everclean Solutions does furnace cleanings. So if you have, you want to keep your rentals up to snuff, I know They just had somebody with 30 properties sign a contract with them to just come and do them annually to make sure that things keep up. The furnace isn't working too hard, everything's cleaned out, so that company goes out and just on an annual basis, they do all the cleaning. And then Solomon Financial. So Solomon, Dan Dick is the senior partner here at Solomon Financial. So that is who gives us this building that we get to meet in every month. And yeah, Dan does amazing work when it comes to financial planning, especially if you have a corporation. He's really creative with corporate planning as well. So yeah, if you have a chance to use any of these services, please do. Thanks.
Or if you know anyone that wants to sponsor, then let us know. So this is our management team for this year. Myself and Danelle are one of the directors here. I am with Realty Executives that Danelle has explained. I do have a passion for real estate investing, educating people, consumers, all that amongst, there's a bunch of red deer, but I do have that passion for this group. Gail Chappelle, Tim Berry, and Keith Westfall's in the room here. David Bailey wasn't able to attend, and Matthew Liver is property manager. It's a realty store on.
I was just gonna say.
Really store. So yeah, we're slowly growing week by week, month by month. I mean, I'd like to get us out there as one of the, I guess right now, the only real estate investment oriented associations in Central Alberta to keep, local people, together, networking, talking, and moving forward together. So we've grown a little bit on our meetup page, on our Facebook page, and then members as well. Oops. So when it comes to membership, we like to try and provide as much as we can when it comes to becoming a member. Right now, it's not $120 for the membership for the year. I think it's $100 since January for your membership, plus $50 for spouses. And then it will give you a whole bunch of benefits as it's shown here. So yes, here's the $100 for your annual January to May membership, plus $50 for spouse, $20 for drop-in fees, and then $10 for spouse. First-time attendees are free. We're just still selling some of these. We only have a few more left of these Stephen Arniel Black Books, Tactical Journals. So, oops, go back here again. So these books, actually, we made a few sales in the last couple of weeks. Basically, they're journals where you can write down, and it's really useful for, brand new investors when they're trying to keep track of their deals and trying to remember the details. So you just write down all the details of that. And then what I found valuable in the first 2 years of investing is that you start to see patterns and you don't have to analyze so many. And that's probably why I'm good at property analysis, because I see the patterns and I'm highly analytical that way that, once you start writing it down, all the details, you get to kind of see, patterns in all the properties and all the numbers. So that's very useful. That one's $15 if you want to keep track of your deals that way. This high performance strategic journal is more like an agenda and goal planning. So that's useful as well if anyone's interested. That's on sale for $30 right now. So yeah, we just encourage you to support us, support everyone in the room and everyone that's like-minded within Central Alberta when it comes to offering resources, tools, and education back to you.
And Cindy, maybe you could mention that we are a non-profit organization. So all of the proceeds go back into the groups to bring in other valuable speakers, whatever it is that we need to cover. And yeah, we have to maintain nonprofit status. We have to file with our accountant every year, all of that kind of stuff. So
yeah. And when it comes to bringing in speakers, like we've had speakers coming from Vancouver, from Kamloops, from Kelowna, Winnipeg, and Edmonton, Calgary. So I mean, we like to pay it forward back to them for coming to Little Red Deer, spending the whole day, like their whole Saturday, to come to us to present the valuable information that they have, that we like to pay it forward back to them through gift cards, gas cards, part of their flight tickets, and time out of their, personal time to come spend with us. So anything's appreciated that we like to pay it back and forward to the group and to our presenters. Now, before we get into our presenter here for the day, I do like to do the personal introductions for each individual. I know everyone doesn't really enjoy that all the time, but we do like to connect like-minded people, and you just never know who has what that another person needs or how they might, be able to support and grow with another person within the room. We've had people connect from, Edmonton together and start doing deals that they didn't realize were coming to the same event here. So if, as we get up to introduce ourselves, just say a little bit about who you are, what experience you have, why you're here, what you might be looking for. It doesn't have to be more than 30 seconds to a minute. That would be great. So I don't know if Jason wants to start here.
Hi everyone, Jason Byers. I was a member of Carria, I think when you first started. For the first year, I have a couple of rental properties, and I'm always looking to grow and do different things and help other people where I can. I really want to come up and listen to Rob talk today. Again, I'm from Calgary, and I'm part of the Central Alberta landlord thing that you got going, and I just really like the value you put out there for everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jason. I have zero experience whatsoever, because I'm 17 years old. I'm here to be with people that enjoy real estate and are willing to teach me so I can eventually get there when it comes time. But so yeah, I'm just kind of here to learn more and hang out with stuff. So that's about it.
Awesome. I'm Danelle. As you know, I'm on the board for Carria. I'm a mortgage broker, a financial advisor, and I bought my first rental property when I was 18 years old, and I just love it. So really involved with creative financing, and yeah, if you have any questions for me on the mortgage side of things, please don't hesitate to ask.
I'm Luke Campbell, Luke K on Facebook. And we have 5 doors currently, but just trying to learn how to do creative financing.
My name's Keith. I've been on a year and a half. So getting ready. Getting something sorted out, but so I don't have anything yet. I'm looking to hopefully in the near future do it. And this is my grandson, and I'm so grateful that he's here. Right, he kind of got me started in all of this because he saw something he thought he'd be interested in, and we just snowballed it from there. So I'm hoping I can do something for myself. I'm hoping he can do something for the rest of his life. Right, but that's what I would like to see. He's at the right age, so it's a good bunch of people to be around so far.
Lisa?
Hi, this is Rachel. I'm from Calgary. This is an awesome group. Information is disseminated here. I'm looking forward to today's meeting. My doors are all out in BC, and I decided because their landlord tenant act is so unbelievably skewed and big for the tenant that my next one should be here. So I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more of the landlord tenant act on that. Hi, first time here, Michelle Cruiser from Airdrie. We have one door here in Red Deer, so just really looking forward to listening to Rob and
My name is Sean, I'm also a mortgage broker and investor. My property in Red Deer, 6 in Sylvan, a bunch in Hamilton area. Been doing it for 20 years. I'm private lending myself, help people need private lending or regular mortgages. Invest in RSPs or doing RSP mortgages. Just about anything creative in the facilities. So we are getting the property with I'll have to get a mortgage as well. I'm saying if you want a card.
Adele Brower, own and manage one multi-hundred properties.
Hello, I'm Holly, and I also love this group, and it's in India, which is super close to get to, except for you guys, I guess. Good job being out here, because I wish I had started when I was that age. So, really nice. I have a few rental properties, and I'm just looking forward to this presentation.
I'm Mark Grundy. Live up in Ruby, so we're close by as well. Retired from the distribution business about a year and a half ago. Working at doing something with real estate. Owned off and on a couple of rental properties over the years. They treated me well, so I've got one piece of property that I want to do something with, and as Holly knows, also kind of looking for a mobile home park. If there's any that are for sale, let me know about. I'd like to hear about them. Just looking forward to what Rob has to say. Lots to learn in that. I've seen a few bad ones out there too, so get to know more.
I'm Martina Unger. I own 2 doors, I guess not doing duplex, and I'm just interested in creative financing, and I think real estate investing is awesome. I think now's the time to do it, so that's me.
I'm Gord Heisler. I'm excited for Grandpa. I got into this in 2008 with my sons, and basically actively involved with my youngest son, who's 37 now, but and we're up at 120 doors, so wish Grandpa.
My name is Chris Noble. I'm retired from law enforcement 5 years ago. PRC, I had 25 years. And just prior to retirement, I managed to scoop myself up a partner with a lawyer, and we said, let's buy rental properties. Okay, so we just throw some money out, buy property, stick somebody in it, make money. Sounds pretty simple, right? Maybe that hurts. Right? So anyway, that evolved into 1 door, 2 doors, 4 doors. Then I got my daughter involved in last bridge, 5 doors, on and on I go. So at that point, I have my ups and downs, and then I retire. And so I do other things. And then I become frustrated because I get these, I'm going to use a little colorful language, shit renters that are breaking stuff and writing stuff. So I said, you know what, something has to be done. We have to reach out. So I one day got my friend together and I said, Maria, how do I do this? And she showed me how to work Facebook. And I said, so I created this Alberta Landlord and Rental Property Owners. And I was managing it and doing it. And so a few people started joining it, and I didn't really know how to manage it. And then this little guy named Hazen, probably those of you remember seeing Hazen's name pop up once in a while. And he's a cute little guy with curly hair and wears a ripped up cardigan, and he's kind of weird, but he's very, very smart. And so he got on with me and he's helping me manage the site. Then this know-it-all, pushy guy gets on by the name of Rob. And I think, who is this guy who thinks he knows it? So I decided I'm going to go meet him. You know what? He's very opinionated, thinks he knows everything, and in fact he does, which is really cool. So I said, you know what, you need to, so we're all part of this. So then the friendships evolve there, and then once you learn people, like, so the written word is always tough to decipher sometimes, but Rob's written word versus his personality, he's a very knowledgeable individual. So it's like, scoop this guy up, right? Because he's got lots going on. He knows it. I think he's almost like a policeman. He flips open the acts like I used to do. And here's the act. Read this page. Here's the section. Here's this. He's educating police officers when they come in. And the police officer goes, oh, okay. And then they have to back down. And they're learning. They're smart. So from that, Rob's come on, and we've got this great thing going. We manage it. Our difficulties with it are keeping renters out of it. And it's hard to screen it. We do the best we can, and they sink in because the answer to the question, we have no way to validate it, but you know what, who cares? It's a private page. What gets posted is amongst the people there. People get scared. We've had the issues with the police recently being involved, telling somebody that needs to take stuff off of there, and you know what, they have no say, they have no control over it, there's nothing to do. So our site is done very well, and it continues to evolve. And because of Rob's solid information and solid background, in what he does has made that page that much stronger. So you know what? It's exciting to have him. Exciting to be here and meet these people. And now I'm hearing names in here, and I'm like, I've seen stuff on people. So if you know somebody who's on there, you see something that's not right, just PM one of us, and we'll investigate it. We'll ask the specific questions that they should be answered the right way. You know somebody's not answering questions right, and we just boot them off if we can. And if you recommend somebody come on, make sure we answer the questions, because they don't answer the questions, we don't approve. And a lot of people get on, they just click it, we don't approve. And it's nice to get a good solid base. The other thing I want to say is if you see somebody on a different site like that, what's it called? Cala, C-L-A-L?
Yeah.
L-A? That site, every once in a while, I see somebody posting on there, and I don't see them on ours, so I go on a private message and I invite people. Oh, I didn't know about your page. So then they see the information we're providing. That place is just, I think, a place that they provide an opportunity to post information where we go a step further and try to provide assistance. So Rob goes to court, Hazen goes to court. I can go to court, but I try to be the rah, put your foot down, you know, with people. And I just recently posted an experience I had last night, and it was collecting money, collecting money. And I got called a lot of names, and I posted it so people could see the character of who they are and why I justify posting their name. There was a lot more drama to it, but it wasn't worth posting the whole story. So anyway, that's who I am in relation to the page. This is the guy that really gives our page the meat, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say too.
My name is Robert Bonin, Robbo on Facebook. Some people ask me why I took my name off there. I have family. Unfortunately, some tenants, the type that he's talking about, do come after. We're in an industry now where, unfortunately, threats are made by millennials, threats are made by people because they think they're all internet lawyers, as Chris and me have learned. They get all their information off anything from BC legislation to Ontario legislation to Service Alberta. One of the keynotes I want to make today is if you don't have legislation to back it up, don't consider it gossip. You can go onto the Service Alberta website and they have interpretations and brochures, and they're all garbage. They're an interpretation made by a social worker of the act, the legislation itself. So when you see this big fancy symbol up top that says Service Alberta, it's a nice guy. But start to find your own meetings to where they're trying to get this information from. To give you an example, Judge Yates, he's a friendly gentleman. You've seen him. He hates everybody equally, including me. If someone brings up Service Alberta in his courtroom, he'll stop there and he'll pull a Ferris Bueller out. He'll be like, Service Alberta in the room? Anybody in the room from Service Alberta? And he'll turn to the tenant. Well, I guess you don't have anybody vouching for you from Service Alberta, so everything you just said is out the window. And the same will go for landlords. You have to be able to back up everything you're doing with legislation. So if you don't know the act, download it. Go to the Court of Queen's Bench printer, provincial court, download the act. There's also an act on the trailers. It's completely separate from the residential tenancy. It's a mobile home park act. There's also the municipal act on the residential tenancy group. In total, there's a total of 4 acts. So if you're getting into this, you need to download them all, put them in a binder. You're never going to be able to read it from front to back and figure it all out, but you're going to be able to, each situation, go back, find it. Service Alberta sometimes is good. You'll call the 1-800 and say, hey, I'm looking for this area. They'll give you the legislation. Don't ask for an interpretation up front. These, again, are social workers. They're not lawyers, they're not judges, they're not mediators, they're social workers. So they just want to be able to point you in the right direction. Sometimes you'll hear from tenants, they'll come back to you and say, well, the landlord tenant board told me this, this, and this, and this, and you can't do that. You actually can't. Because again, if Chris was the tenant and I'm the landlord, and Chris doesn't like something I've done with 24-hour notice, Chris is not telling Service Alberta or the landlord tenant board everything. He's just giving a slight piece of information, so they're just giving him information based on what he's told them. They're not an investigation board. So a lot of times we'll get a phone call from a tenant, as landlords do. Unfortunately nowadays, tenants are a little more combative. Because they all come from the internet society that says fight for everything instead of just shaking hands. The gentleman over there, your grandson, you're the millennial generation learning. It's a broad term, 18 to 35 right now. Self-entitlement is the biggest problem we're having right now in the industry. Somebody rents and they think they're entitled to everything. They're coming from a home. Mom cleaned up after them. Mom argued with their teachers for their rights. They believe they have more rights. So they come into this place, cleaning is foreign to them. So if you have somebody move into a place and they're 18 to 25, a good idea is to go into the home several times over the first couple months and find out if you have a person that's cleaning up after themselves. Because, I mean, I don't know how many people you hear own property 4 and 5 years. Show of hands. How many times you've gone into your property 6 months later and you're like, do you own a vacuum? Do you know what Windex is? And how many people out of this group have had the parents of these tenants call them and bitch at them. Anyone had a parent ever pick up the phone and call them? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. When a 25-year-old girl has her mother call me because we were mean to her and told her she had to clean her place. But again, this is the generation we're dealing with now, unfortunately. What we have to do is treat this as a business. It's no longer shake the hand, take care of my place, I'll keep it in good condition for you. We're walking into places 30 days after they moved in, and doors are hanging off the hinges. There's holes in the walls. And the tenants think that's normal wear and tear. Why? Because their parents said it was okay. They're learning from their parents who are in a generation where self-entitlement is so pronounced. It's probably the number one thing we go on in this industry is self-entitlement is causing more issues in this industry for anything we do. So learn the act, understand the act. If you have questions, like I said, come to the site. Don't do the research and have Service Alberta. If you pull up a 24-hour notice, you'll have 50 different things about 50 different provinces. You'll click on what it could be from Ontario. Ontario legislation compared to Alberta legislation is a huge, huge difference. Like you said, BC. BC is very lopsided. Ontario is very lopsided. Alberta's kind of like this. With our new Conservative government, there are some changes being made. We are pushing for our group 850 members. We're hoping at least 700 of them are landlords. We're gonna, by the time it hits April, maybe we might be close to 1,000. We want to represent a voice. Alberta doesn't have a voice for landlords. There's the Ring Group in BC, but they've never really approached the provincial government. There's your group, but you need a large voice. You need someone that's not afraid to be an asshole in the legislation and say enough is enough. When does damages to your home become criminal? You know, I've been doing this for 20 years, selling real estate, managing real estate, maintaining real estate, providing security for real estate, and now I want to become a voice. I'm full. I've been in court 300 plus times in the last 10 years, and I've got a 98% win average. In the last 18 to 24 months, I'm full. I go into court, it's 5 minutes to get the eviction, and then it's 60 days later we file for damages. We're talking damages anywhere from $500, $200, up to $25,000. And we can cap out at $49,000 in the provincial court. And then it becomes a task to collect it. Our partner Hazen, that you heard about, quirky little guy, there's no doubt in my mind, but that guy is ruthless with collections. Recently, he had an order for $3,000. He got it the next day. He was all ready to go. Had his bank account seized, frozen. She showed up with a money order for the month. But unfortunately, a lot of renters don't have anything. They're living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, we'll just do a credit check on it." That means nothing nowadays. I just saw one that was court proceeding the other day. The landlord moved him in October. They did a credit check. She had a good job. January hit. She broke up with her boyfriend that was living with her. Boyfriend moved out. She started doing drugs. She moved in a new boyfriend that was heavy in drugs. By the start of February, she wasn't paying rent. She didn't want to pay rent, and she knew her rights. So we came in. Hazen dropped off the notice of eviction because I was just somewhere else at the time. And then she reported battery acid on the landowner's car. She was 8.5 months pregnant. She burned her hands. Now our CMP are involved. If anyone here has been on the website, the name is Sarah Westergroup. Very well known. She was evicted last year. Cost $80,000 in damages to a home. The behavior by tenants nowadays is becoming criminal. So we're hoping that we can push forward and make it a criminal act to do certain items when they're in your homes. Don't get discouraged. Property management, having property is a good long-term investment, but having the knowledge to make sure your business is well constructed is your key element. It is a business. Don't shake hands and think you've got a great tenant. It's a business. I mean, you're not going to hand the keys to your car to someone walking into your office, but you're handing them a key to a $300,000 to $500,000 home. You need to go out. If you're going to hire a property management company, do your research. Find out, go to them, talk to them, do your research. The realty store, great. Heard nothing but great things about them. Every meeting I've had with them in 10 years has been fantastic. But there's not a lot that I would green light for property management because they're not diligent. Some of your 2 months back in rent, and then they give you a call and they'll say, "Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, there's about $15,000 damage. It's part of the industry." No, it's not. Your management company failed you in that aspect. Danelle's been in the courtroom. I don't know anybody else here been in the courtrooms? I recommend, if you're from Calgary, I believe Calgary is every Friday morning on the 16th floor. I recommend you go watch. Red Deer, I believe, is Tuesdays, and Edmonton is it Wednesdays? I have to double check, but it's provincial court, it's the Residential Tenancy Act. I would recommend that you go watch one or two. Because you go in there, there'll be 10 in a row. And you'll hear horror stories, but you're also getting an idea what it would be like if you ever have to go to court. A lot of times I see landlords, they walk in and they've got these, I'm just gonna use the paper, it's not paper, they'll have a biscuit. It's garbage. It may as well be thrown in the garbage. Or they'll have a moving report of 3 items written on the bottom of it saying, well, the window was cracked. You need to get proper documentation. You need to do proper research on your notices, your 24 notice entry, your 2-week eviction notices, even for renovations. I'm gonna pick on realtors for a moment. There's very few realtors in the industry that know the act. I get phone calls 2 to 3 times a week from realtors saying, can I do this? No, you can't do that. Well, I want to sell the property. You know, the realtor would say, oh, Danelle wants to sell her house, but she's got a renter. Can I just get them out of there? No. There's legislation in place that says you cannot give them 3 months notice until the conditions are removed. So if your realtor doesn't know what they're doing with a managed property or a property with tenant, find another realtor. Because you'll be the one paying the price with fines, and legislation, and courts. And do your research, find out. Because there's some really good realtors out there that'll find you a great home for rent. They'll do their research on the criminal aspect of it. They'll do the research on it. Is it a legal up and down suite? You have to become informed. That's the biggest thing I can say in this industry. Too many people come into it. They lose their way because they think it's just easy. They have a couple of good months where they get rent. They're making a couple $100 a month. And then all of a sudden they get a bad tenant. They're having to come out on their days off, or they take a month to clean the place up. I'm giving you worst case scenarios because I'm not kind of a guy. I'm saying this is your worst case scenario. I want you to have best case scenario. I've had the best tenants in the world and I've had the worst tenants in the world. They're out there. And unfortunately, we're in an industry now when we're in a low economy where you're not looking for that top 10% anymore. You're looking for the top 10% of the 70. You just, that top 10% has bought homes or they've left the province because there's nothing for them here. When the economy starts turning around, we're able to get that top 10% tenants again. Or get that top 10% of the 70 and educate them how to be tenants. Come out there, be diligent for the first month. We're trying to develop a process through our association that we're going to be developing soon, where we're going to have workshops. You've got a new tenant, how can you move forward? You've got a bad tenant, how can you take steps to get them out as quickly as possible, minimize your damage and risk to the property and yourselves. There's been landlords attacked in Calgary recently. One was attacked with a hammer, I believe it was about 6 weeks ago, for putting a notice on her. She slid a 2-week eviction notice and the tenant came out on meth and attacked her. Luckily, her son was there and prevented too much damages. But you have to remember that we're in a time now where drug use is so paramount. Somebody has a bad day, they start doing drugs. As far as I'm concerned, if every one of my tenants was a cannabis user, it'd be the easiest job in the world. Because the only thing that threatens your property on cannabis is the fridge. Nobody smokes a joint and goes out and rips doors off hinges, or goes and knocks over a 7-Eleven. It's a sedative. All I ask people to do is just like cigarettes. Go outside. Because it is a legal product now. Please don't grow it in there. Everybody here, are they familiar with the Grow Act? The Cannabis Grow Act? Tenants cannot grow cannabis in your home unless you give them written consent. You don't need to have that in your lease. It's part of the provincial legislation. So if you have a tenant that's growing, you just give them notice, say, get that stuff out. They might not know because it will ruin your home. We just had a house out in Sylvan. Bad eviction. We'll be posting the pictures on it soon. And I noticed 4 or 5 of the windows had rust buildup inside the glass frames. Fairly new windows. You can see the rust buildup. It's pretty high humidity for a house that has a hemostat in it. So I started looking around and I found some hockey, the urinal pucks and the tubes that were in vacuum. So it was obvious they had a room that they were growing in. So now we got to bring out the restoration guys because that becomes a problem for the home itself. So now she's making an insurance claim. At least the insurance claim is going to pay for her rent for a couple months. But again, diligence, diligence, diligence. Guys, this is not an easy time to get into this industry, but it's a good time because the rates are so low. Everybody says they're a good or a bad time to buy. Not really. Getting a realtor that's well informed that's the only time you can buy anytime you want, you get a good deal. But you have to have a realtor that's working well for you, that's doing the research for you, that's making sure. I bet I could go on the market right now and find 3 houses that say up and down suites, and I'll bet you 3 of them are illegal suites. Because some of the realtors just aren't doing the diligence. And then the owner buys the property, and then they're getting a letter from the city saying, well, you can't have a tenant in the basement. The road goes on. It's up to you to do your research and make sure that it's legal. If you're coming from BC, RAIN is very paramount out in BC. Are you a part of the RAIN group out there? It's an investors group, like they're trying to form here. The RAIN group is quite large. I spoke at the RAIN membership meeting about 10 years ago, but I noticed over the years the RAIN group has kind of lost their way and they're getting a bit in areas where I wouldn't go. They're encouraging people to do things that they shouldn't do. They're trying to exploit gray areas in meetings. I'm not about that. Chris has been invaluable because he's provided insight for our CMP. If you've any of the landlords here have any interaction with our CMP on a matter yet? Yeah. And how good was it?
You're bad guys.
Yeah, landlords are bad guys.
Mind me just interjecting that one? So Sylvan Lake, a lady in Sylvan Lake, the locks were changed on her house, and the person wouldn't give a key. And do you know that under the Residential Tenancy Act, there's a fine for that? Do you know that?
400.
The tenant changes the locks?
Tenant or you change the lock and don't provide the other key. Do you know you can get a ticket for that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 300 and some or $400.
$479.
Yeah.
Weird number, but that's the
So,
number.
and then, so you can actually get a ticket. So the policeman can come out, write a ticket, serve it to you. Now what do you? Now you go to court or to the tenant because they changed the line. They wouldn't give a key. So here's the problem: the tenant or the landlord goes to the police. They go, "This is not a police matter." Okay. From my 25 years, that term grates on me like I think 2 sets of hands with fingernails going down the chalkboard. When people say it's not a police matter, anytime the phone rings, it's a police matter. How the police direct you to resolve your problem or to a resource to do that, that's what they should be doing. It is a police matter because the phone ring. They like to use it, well, the police matter in their ideas. It's not criminal, it's not provincial, it's not municipal. But their mistake is, it is provincial. It is a provincial statute. So I got involved because they blew her off. And I phoned and I said, and I didn't tell them what. I phoned up the secretary, yes, we know, why are you calling about that person? I said, because she's come in and asked you. And I said, I'm acting as her agent to resolve this. And they said, well, what is it you want to know? I said, so is it officially now that the RCMP are no longer enforcing provincial statutes? The longest awkward pause. And being an investigator, that's an investigation technique, is I said nothing because that forces the other person. She goes, just a minute. And I was on hold for quite a while. Then finally, a corporal comes on the line. And I still didn't tell him who it was. And he says, yes, how can we help you? I said, yeah, I'm calling about this matter. Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I said, so are you guys no longer enforcing provincial statutes, which also includes speeding, the Traffic Safety Act? That's all provincial statutes.
Jaywalking.
Anything, you know. He goes, well, what are you talking about? I said, this is a provincial statute, the Residential Tenancy Act. This is something you would enforce. Well, we just don't do it. I said, why don't you do that as a provincial? We got back and forth. He finally calmed. He said, okay. He said, well, you know, I have property too that I rent out. It's like the dinner bell just rang for me. I go, so you own properties? Yeah. Here in Alberta? Yeah. And you don't know this? Long awkward pause. And he goes, well, I said, you need to know this. I said, you need to be a part of our group. You need to know this stuff because you potentially are setting yourself up for failure. Don't you know these things? It was just the most uncomfortable talk for him. And I presented it just nicely like this. And I said, so here's the situation. This lady needs to be called back and needs to be dealt with properly because you're failing in this. And I said, you're setting yourself up for a public complaint against you and your members for not dealing with this because she's right. I said, did you know you can just write a ticket for this? He goes, you can. My head is going like this off the table. And I go, yeah, you can write. I said, it's a ticket. Either you get them to give her the key, or you write the ticket, and then while you're there, the landlord changes the lock back to what they want and hands the tenant the key, and you're gonna write the ticket out. And it's a summons, it's not a voluntary, it's a voluntary payment on a summons, which means if they don't pay it, they go to court. If they don't go to court, they get a warrant for their arrest. It snowballs on the tenant, but you and I, as landlords, need to know this stuff because that empowers you and you look smart when you go in and you're talking to people. No, these are some of the acts and these are why you need to read them and you need to know them because this is what empowers you to do business. I gotta say is that people say, well, the act's there for the tenant, it's always in their favor. It's not. The act supports you and supports them. If you're smart and you read it, it's all there for you. It's laid out. It's a dinner bell, whatever terminology you want to use, it's there for you. You just have to interpret it and manage it and work it, and it will always work for you. And from coaching athletics, I've always said this is, and I use this analogy. I was a volleyball coach. So we have two teams, and it's a U16 team. But we let the other team bring in their one player in their community who just had nobody to play with, and they're a U17 and a half, almost 18. So you know the difference in the skill level, right, already? But we're gonna let them play. Sure, we let them play, and they beat the crap out of us, just for saying, I'm just making this up. So they beat the crap out of us. Now we're mad. Well, if you hadn't have put that player in there and you, okay. But I changed the rules, and I accommodated the other team. You as a landlord, change the rules and start doing business with your heart instead of your head and the laws. This is where you get in trouble every single time because you allowed something to happen outside of what the regulations are. Like on my post, those of you who may have saw last night, $286 or $267. I told you, you owe that. He goes, you're just a greedy bastard. No, the contract says this. I let you out. I didn't rent for January. I got somebody for February. You lost your damage deposit for January. And you didn't clean, and you didn't do this, and you changed all these, you did all these things. This is what it is to finalize with me. But I'm a greedy bastard. But I followed the rules. And the money came with a bunch of words. And I got the money.
Now you don't have to go to court to try and get it.
But I would have gone to court to make a point. It cost me $100 to go to court. It will cost them. I knew on my application where they banked. I knew when they got their paychecks. I knew where the paychecks were coming from. That's all part of my application. And that's important for you down the road, is to make sure you have all that lined up. And then something else came to my mind through Hazen last night. Him and I were having a chat. He says, why don't you do automatic debit? I go, how do I do that? So we talked a little bit. Automatic debit, what a concept. So what if I don't do automatic debit, but I get pre-approved for it, but I still get
The bank's information.
I still got all the bank's information, and I just say, okay, we'll just do e-transfers. But then at the end, when I have this crap going on, automatic debit. But they don't know I have that ace in the hole. I just thought of that as a strategy.
There is something on the automatic debit when you assign a paper, because you gotta abide by that part of that.
Yeah.
Banking thing, right?
And you know, funny enough that like this came, that was something I was going to talk to you about, because Gordon has like 100 and some doors, but I was going to talk to him about it, whether that's even a viable strategy. But my mind's always going 100 miles an hour. How can I secure my position? And that's something that came up. So I have to see if it's viable or not, or whether I can legitimately do it, or how I do it. But I don't know. But I throw it out in case there was somebody here who knew more than me, and I hope there is. So. But anyway, sorry to cut in, but I'm very passionate, as you can see,
We
about
all
doing
are,
it right.
because we've been doing it for so long. And I notice you touched on the application process. You're gonna run into people that think they're versed in the Privacy Act, that they think they know, well, you can't ask for that. As long as you have a reason to ask for it, you can. In 20 years, I've gotten 2 phone calls from the Privacy Commission, one from the federal, one from the provincial. I got the book, I took the privacy on both of them, I know them front to back. You can ask for a social insurance number. You can ask for a driver's license. You're actually entering into a contract agreement with a tenant. When you enter into a contract agreement, you have to establish their identity. Okay, so you can take a photocopy of their driver's license. So somebody's saying you can't do that, you have to. You can actually get a fine if you don't establish the person's identity. The courts are pretty relaxed. Sometimes someone will use a different name, but the courts are starting to come down. I've heard several judges getting a little uptight. Well, Did you ask for their ID when you entered into the court agreement? You should. So I'm seeing the legislation is gonna come down, because realtors, if they don't take a driver's license for the enter, even if they know, I mean, I just entered into an agreement to sell property the other day, Ed Ketcher says I need a driver's license. Because he has to take a photograph of it, he has to have it, because he can get in trouble. The legislation's gonna happen eventually for landlords. You need to identify the person you're entering into contract with. And at the same time, if you got a tenant goes, I'm not giving you my social insurance number, I'm not doing this, have a nice day. Don't even waste your time arguing with them. If they're already arguing with you and they haven't even given you information, you're not the tenant for me. Have a nice day. You haven't broken any rules. You don't have to explain yourself. Have a nice day. Same thing when it comes to, people, oh, you're being racist. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're from India. I don't care if you're from China. I don't care if you're from one of the reserves. This is a 2-bedroom apartment. You have 5 kids. Not going to happen. It's not racist. It's just common sense. You can refuse anyone you like as long as it's not based on constitutional charter rights and freedoms. If you get a gut feeling, like if I've met a gentleman and my gut says don't rent to him, every time in 20 years that I've decided to rent to that person and ignore my gut, it bites me in the ass. So I just don't ignore my gut anymore. And
Do you have to give a reason?
no.
Because I've heard like you can't,
No.
if you say because you're a smoker or something, you can be in trouble, right?
You don't have to give a reason.
Yeah, but if you have a no smoking unit because you're a smoker.
Can't they just smoke outside?
They could, but again, if your gut tells you that you should rent something, you don't have to give a reason. You're just not for me.
Don't give them any information.
That's
right.
Don't
Don't
give
give
them
them
a rope to hang yourself.
Yeah, don't give ammunition. I mean, if you came to my place and you said, what, and my gut said, there's something right here, wrong here, just, I don't like the way the application is written, I don't like the way that maybe your references sounded, I trust my gut. I just phone you up and say, yeah, sorry, it didn't work out. It's not a good fit. And, well, why? Sorry, it's not a good fit. Have a nice day. But don't give them ammunition, because who needs the drama? Who needs the bullshit that goes along with it? And again, if you're just getting into this, most people are good hearts. You have some woman that walks up or some man that walks up and says, oh, I can't afford the damage deposit. Can I pay $100? No. There's legislation that says once that tenant moves in, they don't have to pay the security deposit. You have to move in, and they don't pay it. There's no law that says you can enforce it at that point. Get everything paid in full to begin with. If they can't afford it now, they're probably not going to be able to afford it later. That's not a good sign. And I bet you half the cases I've taken on in the last 6 months, well, I only got half the security deposit. They promised me this, they promised me that. There's no car dealership or homeowner, you buy a house, that would ever enter an agreement saying, well, we'll pay this after we take possession. We'll pay this after we pick up the car. This is your $300,000 to $500,000 home. Don't make concessions. You're better off to have an empty property than a problem, because a problem turns into thousands of dollars in damages, thousands of dollars to get them out. So you have to leave your heart at home when you're doing this.
You get a renter who gives you 1 month's rent and half the damage deposit. How do you record that? You're just moving in, that's how they pay you. What's the best way to record that?
Full damage. Again, first month's rent, don't move in, you keep your money.
Full deposit and half rent?
Exactly.
Full deposit.
Put it right on the receipt. Half full deposit, half the month's rent. So if they don't pay you, if you do decide this and they don't pay you in the 5 days it's required, you can write a notice up for non-payment of rent.
Here's your eviction.
Here's your eviction based on non-payment of rent. But be careful. You do the research on this. We've seen this recently. There's a couple of law groups that are providing documentation. Be careful of what you're pulling off of there. That was actually that day you were there for Judge Yates. That was a bad form that landlord had pulled off, and it didn't have the clause. There has to be about 6 items on the list, 5 or 6. One of the biggest ones is if you're just evicting someone for non-payment rent, let's say they didn't pay February's rent, you're in a courtroom, you slid all your documentation, your lease, your statement of account, your claim, and of course the eviction notice. That judge will throw the whole claim out if all of these are not done right. And I've seen it time and time again. They say, I think it's a notice to pay or quit. I've seen it at the top. And it's a law societies, they sell you for $5 a year. Wrong. And now the judges all know it. So as soon as they see that notice to pay or quit at the top, they know it's missing that tiny little section that says, if you pay your rent, this terminates the eviction. they have to be given the option to pay their rent. Most times, unfortunately, now, if someone hasn't paid their rent, there's lots more. Their dog is trashing the yard. There's damages to the suite. There's smoking in the suite. They've got a nuisance guests that are coming up. So, has anyone here ever applied for a student loan? When they were kids? Okay? If you had $10,000, do you ask for 10 or do you ask for 20? You're asking for the 20. So when we go to court, I put everything down. The worst first, non-payment of rent. The second one being non-payment of rent on time. I go up to the property, do an inspection. Not cleaning the property, not keeping the property in good care and order as guaranteed. I'll put 7 or 8 different things on there. So if they do, I've got a tenant sit right cross-eyed, they walk in all proud of themselves, December 23rd, the court date, here's the $800 in rent. Judge Glass looks at me, what would you like to do? I'd like to take the rent, great. So we're striking the non-payment of rent off the list. What would you like to do? I'd like to still proceed with the eviction. Based on what? Non-payment of rent on time, problem with the dogs, problem with the neighbors, problem with their guests, problem with damages to the property, which we have photographs of here. Okay, what would you like a month? Well, we paid to the end of December. I want a month, December 31st. As long as you're reasonable, if you go to the courtroom, the judges will always accommodate you. Don't walk in with a pile like this and pointing at the tenant, they're bad. It's business. So if you come in just what's required, let the tenant go on, let them take you out to be the worst person in the world, smile and take it.
I've got a question back to the security deposits. So one of the things that I was learned over from somewhere or whatever, but if you take the security deposit as a deposit for them to move in, and then they don't take it, sometimes you have to turn that back. So I've been playing a little game where I take the security deposit towards the first month's rent, but then kind of switch it and put it in the security deposit so that, they owe me the rent. Because we have been flexible, we are flexible, like we allow our tenants to pay on the first and 15th. They kind of, with the downturn, we made it so that
they can balance up.
Yeah, they can eat food when the rent's paid.
There is a way around. About 15 years ago, I did an application form. In the back of the application form, I put on there, I don't remember the exact wording. It says, if you fail to take up residence at the agreed upon time, because once you sign the application, and I've said approved, I put approved on, big fluorescent writing, and the date you're approved and when you're going in. A week later, you go, nah, I decided not to take it. It says right on the back where they sign, if you fail to take up residence, you will forfeit your deposit and you could be held accountable for the cost to re-rent the suite and the cost of any lost rent. And I've been dragged into court for that. And the judge looks at me and goes, you signed this, you lost your deposit. If you put a clause in there, you make sure it's right on the page where they're signing. And I don't do 2 pages, I do 1 page double-sided. So that a judge can never say, well, they didn't initial this. They initial for 1 page, it's covered both sides. So put a clause in your application. And I have another clause. If any of the information in this is false or misleading in any way, you will forfeit your deposit. And I've had people they'll fill out all the basic information, all that, and they flip over to the backside. You start reading this clause, and I get this, hey, can I take this home with me, and I'll fill this out, and I find it crumpled up in the parking lot as they walk out, because everything they put on there was false. There's no way they're signing that and handing over cash. I bet you half the people.
Can you have that like in your lease, but then the initial at the bottom of that page for the signatures of the people?
Well, they haven't signed the lease yet. They haven't taken possession. This is just on an application when you're saying. You know, same thing. If they do sign a lease, that's a whole different story. If they sign a lease and then they tell you 3 days before and they decide, no, they can be held liable for the entire time that it sits vacant. You can't. What I've done is, say he moved into one of my places or took possession. Not even took possession. He signed the lease. He was going to move in on March 1st. He phoned me tomorrow and said, I decided not to take. He signed that lease. I'm obviously going to start looking for another renter. Let's say I don't find a renter until April 1st. I'm going to keep his deposit and I'm going to hold him liable for that month that sat vacant, or the 2 months, plus any utilities or any costs that I incurred trying to re-rent it. Because how much time and how many potential tenants did I wave past waiting for him? I'm sorry, that in the end, it's a business. You know, you're not here to be a charity. And unfortunately, when the economy was 2006, you could afford to be a charity because anybody can start a business. I could walk up, put a sign up, and I'm going to be a contractor, and I'm a contractor. Now there's just not the cash flow for people to make the money they once were. So you have to make it a business. You have to remove your heart from the situation. You got to put on your business face. Recently, I got told by, the owners of Vive, I'm sure everybody here that's Sylvan Lake knows who owns Vive. Well, don't rent to them, ever, okay? Owner of one of the water softeners in Sylvan Lake rented to them. We had to actually get the court order and we had to get a bailiff to get them out. And it was entertaining for 3 months because they tried to get other lawyers involved and tried to tie up time and space. At the end of the day, when he did bring in some money for us, he turned to my son in my office and he said, "Dad, your dad is an asshole in court. He's really nice here. Like, he's a super nice guy in this room. I'm giving him money." Of course, you're giving me money. I'm a great guy. But when I'm in court to represent you, my job is not to be nice. If I'm going to protect Janelle's rights, I'm going to say to them outside of the court, would you like to make a consent? Would you like to avoid the whole court proceeding? This is what we expect of you. Maybe Janelle's feeling a bit charitable at this moment. She'll waive my court costs just because she doesn't want to go through the process of coming back 3 times. Right, they sign a consent. But what I do is I give them the right act. You don't want to go in there with me. I'm a jerk. The reason I'm here is because I feel they can win hard. And if I go in there in front of the judge, I'm going to make you look bad. I'm going to drag everything I know about you out there. I'm going to destroy your credibility. My job is to protect landlords' rights in the courtroom, or if I'm representing a tenant. 95% of my clients are landlords. But the odd time I'll take on a tenant one if I see a shady landlord or a shady property management company. We were talking about it just earlier. 10 years ago, there was probably, 5 management companies in there too? Now there's like 50. Because every real estate brokerage is starving. They're not doing as well as they were in 2006 and 2012. So now every realtor and vendor thinks they're a property manager. These are the same guys that call me weekly and say, "Can I do this? Can I change the locks without consent?" No. It's no different than what he was saying with the RCMP. How much time do they spend in training? In Regina?
Well, 6 months.
6 months. In 6 months, they have to learn everything that the judges know, the lawyers know, the real estate agents know, the property management knows, the trailer partners. They have to learn a room full of law. There's no way. And it's the same thing with the realtors. If they've spent 10 years selling realtors, they've probably got a 90-95% grasp on it. I was in real estate from 2005 to 2013. I had a relatively good grasp on it. You learn something new every month. Some kind of contingency or some kind of ruling that you weren't aware of how it was applied. But property management, the tenants, let's say you have one that's on AISH or social assistance, they get a free lawyer to fight you. Keep that in mind the next time you're renting to someone that's on income support. If they want to fight you in court, they'll get a free lawyer. And that free lawyer will take you to court for $800 security deposit. And you think to yourself, "Oh my God, to hire someone to do this is going to cost that much. I'll just write the $800. Don't do that. Don't. You're setting a dangerous precedent and you're enabling them to get away with it again and again and again and again. And they're learning. They're learning at a scary rate on how to manipulate the system. Professional renters. And they're getting help from the health board. They get help from RCMP, whether they know it or not, that just, they come from another province. Rules are different. I've had Quebec law officers threaten to throw me in jail. Yeah, I'll be calling the watch commander. Bye-bye. But on the watch commander.
So what you just said there was the French Canadians from Quebec who come here. Quebec is another freaking world.
It's a balance like this.
I'm from Quebec. I was born and raised there. I moved in 1980. I moved out here. But you go down there and it's every July 1st, June 30th, everybody moves. And it's like this. It's a mix, because that's when it is. It's a 1 year thing. Everybody has it on July, June 30th is the big move. Or maybe it's May 3rd. But anyway, so the end of 1 month, everybody does the move. There isn't a month like we do here. And if I apply, he has to take me. You can't say no. But what you can say is, well, there's someone else ahead of you if you're smart. But otherwise, if they find out, you're shit, because you have to rent to them. You have no choice.
Even in Saskatchewan, you have, if you own an apartment building, say 10 units, and I can't quote legislation because it's been a while since I read it, but a certain percentage has to be First Nations. Has to be. So landlords will leave them vacant rather than in certain areas put First Nations in, because they know they'll get destroyed. And that's not always, but it's just a risk they don't want to take. So they'll have a 10-suite building. They'll leave 4 suites or 3, whatever buildings. They'll leave 30% of the building vacant.
But when you come back to what you said about the Quebec police officer French, they come here with their knowledge from their province, and they haven't learned here how it works. And this is where, going back to what I originally said, why we get into conflict, it's not a police power. Well,
Yeah, and I said that at the beginning of my first time, Chris, this is not a police matter. You talking to the vocabulary to get along with police, because I would say that right now, this is not a police matter. Well, you tell some kid 7, 8 months out of Regina that it's not a police matter, whew, dive into that real quick. He's ready to fight, he's on the phone, so the prosecutor's on the phone with the watch commander, and it turns into a big kerfuffle. If I see an officer that doesn't know the legislation, I offer to educate them, especially on your behalf. If you call me and say, oh, this officer just told me, you know, that's what happened to somebody on our site. Hazen, wasn't it?
yeah, somebody did.
Called her up and told her, what did you tell her? She had to do what?
She had to take the she posted about a renter, and there's somebody, I think there's just somebody who gets a kick on our site, just cut and paste and sending it. They don't even know the people. But you know what? Our site is private, and as long as it's truthful, you can never be hung out to dry for telling the truth. You're wearing a gray jacket.
I can post on the site.
It's the
I met you
truth.
today
You're wearing a
gray
purple
jacket.
jacket. Well, that's a lie. There's a difference. You know what I'm
And
saying?
if your information, so my Facebook with this shirt, someone can take that picture and post it. It's Facebook owns all the right to your photos. You can't say that person took my photo and used it without my knowledge. It doesn't work like that. But this officer, misinformed from Sylvan, wasn't it? I think it was Sylvan.
Yeah, I think so.
Sylvan phoned her up, and he
Told her
kind
how
of bullied her that she should take down her post. And she started putting on there, this is bullshit, I'm not feeling the support. I phoned her and said, give me the officer's name. I phoned him up, said, officer, and he was a little uptight with me, and he didn't want to discuss it. He said, no problem, I'll discuss it with your watch commander or whoever's the person in charge today. And I phoned them, then I got a phone call back from the officer, okay, I've been encouraged to work with you on this. I'm informed that you will help us when you can. What can you educate? Great, let me tell you where the legislation is and where to find it. And he phoned Kayla back, apologized to her, said this is not a criminal matter. Instead of saying it's not a police matter, he says it's not a criminal matter, it's a civil matter. So if the tenant wants to spend $25,000 and try and have a post taken down, they're welcome to it. Good luck. This is the same person that can't pay you $500 for the rent. Don't think they got 25 grand. And some of them will be like, well, I can't find a place to rent. Well, I'm really sorry that you've trashed your last 3 places and you're being held accountable. That's the big word.
That's the biggest, scariest thing out there for
Is
some
being
people.
held accountable. Nobody is holding 18 to 35-year-olds accountable.
$267 last night. I held them accountable and told them what I would do nicely. This is the route I'm gonna go, and this is what it's gonna cost you. Just give me your effing email and I'll send you the money now.
How many people in this room over the last 10 years, someone owes you money and you just go like this? I'm done. I don't want to chase you. I don't want to chase you for the 50, the 100, the 400. It's not worth my time. You can't do it in this industry. You can't. You have to hold them accountable. How many people here have a gym membership?
Yeah.
How many times have you canceled a gym membership? It takes 4 or 5 months before they stop taking money out of your account. That's going to change. We in Hazen are developing a program and a demand letter, and we're going to report them to Consumer Affairs, and we're going to drag Ocean Fitness, Good Life, Women's Fitness. We're going to drag them all into a courtroom, 3 or 4 cases. You want to see how fast they start, because it's, my girlfriend owned 9 cribs, Michelle. It takes 5 minutes to go on a computer. They do it because it's a massive profit ratio. I got my hands on something that shows that there's over $50 million a year collected by fitness clubs on stretching out the time it takes to stop the automatic withdrawals to your card or your account. So we're going to get Consumer Affairs involved. It's, again, only a small amount, $50 here, $100 here. We'll just, it's not worth my time. So in this industry, we have to hold people accountable because it's the same people over and over. I have 25-year-olds that are just dumbfounded. Well, I let you keep my damage deposit. I'm looking around the room. There's plate-sized holes. There's doors hanging off the hinges. I'm holding you accountable. Hazen's going to collect from you. We're going to hold you accountable. We're going to give you the option outside of the court. Would you like to make a payment arrangement? You don't have to go to collections. Again, give them the option because collections take 20 to 45% of their money. Because you don't want to do that job. It sucks. If I ever opened a collection agency, I would open a call center in Mexico. People have driven through the doors of a collection agency. Mexico's safe. I think it was Able Acton. They had an office in Red Deer, or they had an office in Alberta, I think it was in Calgary, and they had an office in Kelowna. The Alberta offices were in Kelowna. The BC offices were in Calgary, because they had people showing up with guns recently. So they just made it so it was too far to go. And post office box or e-transfers to pay. But like he was saying, look at every option you can to collect rent. 120 properties I've managed, cared for, owned, 100 plus properties over the last 20 years. Sold, got rid of. I'm stepping out of the management yet, except for my own stuff. I'm referring stuff away. I'm encouraging people to sell if they're tired of it, or if they want to amalgamate with other owners. Because I want to move into a provincial legislation representing a group of owners in Alberta.
Does that have, it says make Red Deer great again?
Yes. We are going to change things to make things better in Alberta for owners. I've just seen too many people. I've seen landlords walk into their place. I saw a little old lady, 71 years old, in Southern 2 days ago, walk in and start bawling. She was bawling. This is her retirement. It was a house she bought with her brother who passed away. They didn't have insurance, unfortunately, on the house, so she's still paying on it. And the house is trashed. That's what I told you about that had the evidence that they were in a drug house. And again, big heart, they owe $6,400 in rent. They're cleaning the place out right now. The pictures are going to make you gasp. They're going to hurt you inside seeing the pictures that they did to the place. And they're not just damaging. These kids, anybody here saw the Sylvan Lake house that was trashed?
Oh, there are.
I think I might have actually, I might have seen that.
You were at the party, you said?
No, no.
This guy right here. Okay, but Sylvan Lake is a big joke. These Airbnbs are being threatened. It's a tough road, Airbnbs. That's a whole nother topic, but again, do your research. Don't believe the hype on Airbnbs. They're more work that they can work as long as you're diligent, as long as you're doing everything. This isn't I'll buy the house and this guy will pay my mortgage, and then in 20 years I'll sell it and I'll make $500,000. The house is paid for. It's not like that anymore. This is an economy that's down in the toilet. People are having a tough time finding jobs. You have to take your heart out of the situation. You have to make this a business. I mean, if you don't, you're going to lose your house. If you don't, you're going to be getting a second job. I know a lady, the one down in Hartvale. Remember the one that was the chop shop for the bikes? Her husband was infirmed. She had to take a second job. She worked a full-time job at a farmer's school. She had to take a second job caring for seniors. She could pay the utilities on the house that they weren't paying. And they were using it as a chop shop. I picked it up on the 3rd. They were out by the 14th. And it was a nightmare. And again, walked in. The house had graffiti. There was painting on the walls. It was just like, it was something out of
How many people
to live and die in LA.
How many people inspect their places on any regularity? Tell me what you do.
I go in, typically like my one property in Calgary, I have a really good single woman in there. It's a big house. I go in there and I'll turn the water outside on or off. I look around. Again, she's clean. She's just.
How often do you go?
Stuff. To that one, basically every 4 months.
Okay. Who else? What do you ladies do?
I go quarterly. When they sign their lease, I let them know I come quarterly. It's part of my insurance, or whatever. And I'll go bring a furnace filter, so that gets me to the basement. You know, and I have to forward look at walking out. And if it looks okay, I don't go up. It's okay.
Yourself?
I'm just glad it because I'm a long distance landlord, so it's not on a fixed schedule. Probably after 6 months. I just go in.
In the communities that you have you considered a friend or an agent or somebody saying, can you do an inspection for me? So do you ever consider that rather than you having to do that long distance?
I don't really.
Oh,
actually, yeah.
A really good thing is when you have a rental property, anybody here neighbors to a rental property? The property next to them is a rental property. Anybody here ever had that? Not fun to live next door to a rental property. It's great to live next door to an owner because you can sit down with an owner. Maybe he's can't sell it, he starts renting it out, nightmare tenants. So then the neighbors have to buy a property in the neighborhood. First thing you do, get some business cards, go to the neighbors across the street, the guys behind it. I just bought this property, I'm renting it out. If there's ever a concern, please call me. Neighbors love to tell on people. Neighbors are the best source of information. Yeah, I think your guy just skipped out. There was a U-Haul. Hey, I own a U-Haul. Give me the number of the truck. I'll find out where they're going. You know,
Anybody else here that does inspections or I saw some
I
hands?
do mine quarterly, and I do a furnace filter too, and then I also do, fire alarms, because that gets you in different areas of the house on a certain one, and then I also do, you know, that drain snake thing, or the tub, that gets you in the tubs and bathrooms and all that kind of stuff on a certain day, so it gets you into different rooms for different reasons.
Anybody ever see the video I posted about pulling the rat out of the drain?
Oh, no.
Okay, so
big
I
hairball on
I,
the
I,
track.
if you go back through our post or check my name on the site, just search me. I decided to have some fun one day. I knew what was gonna happen. So I found an animal fight on things, a couple raccoons. And I had it on my iPad next to me playing. And then I took my phone and I dug in and I pulled the big hairball out of the tub. And I just made a big fight in this. Anyway, it was fun because we try to make our page fun too. But if you go back and just find my name and go see my post, you'll see the video I posted regarding the rat pulling it out of the drain.
And it brings up a good point, because a lot of landlords that use their heart, like, I'll just pay for that. No, don't. Because they haven't learned anything. I mean, I made my stepson, who was 17 at the time when they all moved in, when blended our families, well, my think plug, what do? I'm like, lay on your back, put a bowl down there, take the P-trap off. He's like under there, and he's a bit of a heavy, he's got long hair, and he's, and anybody's ever taken a P-trap with hair products, especially, men are just as bad now. It used to be just women's hair products. It's awful. It's a chemical. You can't breathe. And I've got this 17-year-old hurling. Now what happens? He's got a little net over the thing. He does never want to do that again. Okay, because he learned. I get in there with the tenants. I pull the P-trap off, or I'll get one of my staff, and I make the tenant do it. This is your hair. This is your products. Teach them. Don't teach them to pull it apart. Teach them what's in it. Saying, and I'm going to have to charge you for this call, $25. But I don't. This is your hair. This is not wear and tear. This is not part of taking care of the property. You have to take that first stance with them. You know, oh, I broke a screen because I lost my key. Okay, you have to replace that. You have to fix that. And don't wait till they leave. Make them get it repaired. I'm going to pull that out right now. I'm going to drop it off at a screen place. When it's ready for pickup, I'm going to go pick it up. I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to come to your door and I'm going to say, give me some money.
Question, does that come out of their damage deposit? Does that come out of their damage deposit? Who thinks it comes out of their damage deposit? Who thinks that they should pay for it?
Right away. Right away.
Yeah. If it comes out of their damage deposit, guess what? Damage deposit needs to be replaced because they're still there. So however you want to do it.
The smart thing to do is that when you've got anything that's accidental, I always encourage tenants. I always say when they're moving in, accidents happen. You've got a couple kids, one trips, boom, head. He's got a little idiot at the wall. Call me up. I'll have a painter give you a call. If you're not, I would prefer you don't do it. I would prefer you get my guy to do it. You pay him in cash. He'll do a great job. He'll teach your kids while he's there how to paint. They learn accountability. There's no accountability anymore. Like zero. My brother is probably the worst example of teaching his child accountability. His child's been in jail since he was 15. He's now 28, still in jail. Remember the one that broke out of the remand center last summer? He was one of those that broke out of the remand center. Okay? No accountability. So as a landlord, if you're taking on tenants, you're a parent, you're a counselor, you're a police officer, you're a peace officer, you're an animal control. All of that is part of your job now. You can't call I have tenants or owners. I can call the police, tell them to get those tenants out. Chris has had those calls. Sorry, can't help you. We don't evict people. And if you ever get an officer that doesn't, he can get a lot of trouble.
There's ways as an officer that you can encourage people to move along because, you know, it was the right thing to do. Like we had an eviction in Panoka 2 weeks ago. Hazen and I and a lady, she's a friend of mine, she's 70, and she was going there because she's looking after the place for some other guy. And the month prior, they arrested a crackhead out of there. They were dealing crack out of there. He's in jail. The girl, she was part of it all, but she ended up staying there, but she wasn't on the lease. So we use that to our advantage. We get there, she's not ready to go out. When she said she's happy, she said, you can't do that. She makes the mistake of walking out of the house. So we, doors closed, locked, she's out now. So now we got the house, and because she's supposed to be out that day. And then the police, she's crazy, so we call the police ourselves, get them there. Police don't know what to do. They're like, this is like, resolve the situation, like calm it down. And so we end up getting her gone. Sorry, not getting her gone. We ended up making a deal. We had her sign something specifically. She needed to get her stuff out there because we didn't want to deal with it. So we said, you can, her mom came, 30 some years old. Yeah. Her mom comes and starts giving us the gears, saying, talking to the hand, right? Because we're not, but, so mom, we said, make her accountable. Okay, we'll get her out of here. So sign a contract, sidebar, say we can remove, and the police are there, we can remove you by whatever means you agree to that tomorrow at 5 o'clock. It really written, Hazen wrote it up, and had her sign it, had the mother agree to it, so whether it's valid or not, but
Yeah, it's
about the
smoking
head.
mirrors.
So anyway, at the end of the day, we went there at 5 o'clock, it was empty, the keys were on the counter, and she was done.
Yeah.
So we gave a little to get more. So,
because if you got a truckload, a 3-ton truck full of garbage, you're gonna have 8 to 10 hours labor with 3 guys, like they're unloading and so right now. Plus the cost for rental vehicle. Now, if it's under 2,000, and you gotta be really clear on this point, okay? If you're gonna be a landlord, you need to pull up all 4 legislations. You need to pull, there's a little bit of abandonment in each one, because it's such a scary area. There's no real things.
what are the 4 legislations? Does anybody know?
The Residents and Tenants Act.
Yes.
Residential Tenancy Act.
The Residential Tenancy Act.
And then I'm looking for the other 2.
Municipal Act, I'll pull them all up if anybody wants it, I'll post them on the site.
But there's the regulation. You know, under an act, there's also a regulation. The regulation is another printing. So, for
And
example,
sometimes in that printing is another version or a part. So it could say, here's how to determine abandonment. Here's what to do with the abandonment goods. Here's how to get into the abandonment. They don't put them all in one chapter. They spread them all over the place. It's a nightmare.
So,
and I had an episode with the RCMP in Black Falls with Sarah Westergreen last year. This nightmare tenant you've heard about or read about, where I had an officer come out because she made some innuendo that she had an officer boyfriend, and if I came into her suite, there was going to be trouble. And we did believe this because somebody told me that she was very close with a member. Well, if a member involves himself in a civil matter and identifies himself as an RCMP, he's done. He's done.
he just opens himself up.
He opens himself up to be let go, fired, charged, the whole 9 yards. So I phoned the Black Falls RC and said, I'd like an officer to be that's on duty, because this is what she said. And suddenly there was nobody in the house. Like she wasn't there, her friend wasn't there, and we looked in and all of her stuff's gone. We're looking it all around and there's nothing in the back. There's like 6 boxes in the basement. Said, we'll give her 24 more hours. We came back the next day with a locksmith. We got into the suite. We posted notices of abandonment in all the windows, saying we feel that you've abandoned this based on what we see. And again, there's no legislation. Service Alberta at one time came up with a brochure that said, if you don't see any food, you don't see any clothes, the electronics are gone. Again, it would never hold up in court. It's based on opinion. It's a risky thing to take possession on abandonment. You really got to be sure. So you don't go there by yourself. You bring yourself. You bring a friend. You say to a police, if you think you're in danger, bring the police up there and tell them that. Say, I'm feeling that I could be in danger. An officer will come out, but he's not going to help you. He's just going to have a quick look. He's going to make sure you're safe. He's going to leave. He's going to keep the peace. And at that point, post everything, change the locks, and be ready. Because worst case scenario happened last year. She broke in that evening. She plugged the drains. She flooded the house. $80,000 worth of damages. No charges have been laid because it's so hard to lay a charge and prove it. They recently got our interview with her that says she admits to being in the house.
Didn't she post pictures that night?
She posted pictures of herself being in the house. She even had a copy of the abandonment notice that was inside the glass. So how did she get the abandonment notice? And no charges still have been laid. It's an ongoing investigation. And the insurance company is now putting pressure on the RCMP because they want her charged. There's enough to lay a charge, but again, they've got a pretty full table.
What's happening with that is this, is you have a member who's investigating it. I'm not making excuses. It's a lack of training. It's a lack of knowledge. And that's what we're talking about here. Lack of knowledge of how to do the job. They don't know everything. And then they struggle because you get a member with 2 years, 6 months, 3 years service who've never dealt with it before. It sort of becomes an out of sight, out of mind. It's out of sight, I don't have to deal with it, but then it flares up. They don't know how to manage it. They don't know how to work through it. They don't know how to.
The best thing
They don't know how to do it.
is keep a record. Don't be doing Post-its. If you have a property, keep a record of everything. The single best way we've done well with tenants in courts, foreign tenants, is we have a sequence of events. And you just keep adding to it. Sequence of events. How did this play out? You have an eviction or you have a tenant. I keep a file. Whenever there's an incident, there's a piece of paper and I just write down the incident. Could have been something really minor. I told her she could not watch her friend's cat. It's a no pet place. Remember on the lease, section 12 of the rules on the back page, in bright red, you initialed beside said, you cannot have a pet, whether it be babysitting, whether it be yours, visiting, nothing, no pets without written consent. The tenant goes, oh yeah, I remember signing that. Oh, but it's gonna be gone. No, it's gonna be gone today, or I'm gonna give you an eviction. Don't give space, because as soon as you give a little bit of space to a tenant in this kind of economy, what's the old saying? You give an inch, they'll take a mile. And then they learn from that. They go to the next landlord, which could be you, could be you, could be you, could be you, and they'll do this. And you are, by enabling a tenant, you're building a professional tenant. You're making it harder for everybody else in the industry, and eventually it'll come back to haunt them.
So go back to where we were here.
I was thinking of the fourth act.
Yes, and I want to go back to that. What are all the acts? Are we writing those down? Because there was the Residential Tenancy Act.
There's the municipal part of the act.
The municipal part of it. And what are the other? What are the regulations called? Does anybody know? You know?
I'm top of my head now.
I'm on a
He
lot
said
of
he'll
code.
post it on the
I'm on a
page.
lot of code medications today,
So what we need to do on the page is we'll put a pin at the top of what action you need to
Oh, the
know.
mobile home one is
Another one, yeah. So we'll pin those up there because those, I've said on the page, this is your Bible, this is your guide.
Oh, the Residential Tenancy Dispute Board Regulation Act.
There's another one. So, and then there was one we talked about earlier that didn't really tweak with me is to bring it up, but do you remember what it was at the beginning we talked about? To do with growing marijuana.
The Big Grow Act.
The Grow Act, the Cannabis Act.
So you need that one now.
Yeah, there's a small section in there for landlords. You should read it. And if you think that going 2 plants in your house is a good idea, you're wrong. Tell the tenants, no, under no circumstances can you grow cannabis in your home.
Here's the fun part of that. I didn't know that. But I've been out of policing for 4 years, but I didn't know that because I didn't read it. I had a tenant growing 4 plants, which you're allowed to grow 4 plants in your home.
If you have written consent.
No. I mean, in your personal home, you can grow 4 plants. So he's growing 4 plants. And I'm telling the guys I know in town, joking about it, yeah, 4 plants. I went in on the bucket because he had them already. It was a mess. It was a fire hazard. But they didn't know that you can't do that. Because we would have had, you would say, Chris, you can't do that. They didn't even know because it didn't come on our competition. But now I know, and I go like, holy, like, slip by me there. Again, it comes down to they don't know everything. And we have to do forms. We say, hey, section such and such, did you know? Let me look that up. Holy crap, no, I didn't know that.
It becomes really important to have these conversations at the beginning, so the tenants know that you mean business. You will act on these things immediately, right? Because if you don't have those conversations and you wait till they happen, then.
And that's that goes in part of the hire a property manager. You need them to be your best representation.
Yeah.
You need them to hammer down, saying, I want you to hammer down this. If you're not going to, you're not the management company for you. If you become knowledgeable, you can be better manage your property day to day. Going to court, however, can be hard, and it's getting harder now. They removed the help desk. They're not even providing tissue paper or water in the courts now.
For you, right?
Yeah, pretty much. They've slashed the budgets of the provincial courts, slashed them.
Yeah.
They won't even do photocopying for anymore. And they've been instructed, both the Court of Queens and the provincial now, if you don't have your T's crossed and your I's dotted, they won't even file it.
Yeah.
She wasted a whole morning doing it. And I bet you, today's Saturday, Tuesday when I was there, it was Tuesday before that, there was 11 cases. 7 of them got either kicked to the curb for another date, which is 3-4 weeks down the road, or they got dismissed because the landlord didn't file it correctly. So suddenly, our fee of $750 wasn't so bad, because now he just had to eat $1,500 rent. And now he's got more damages, and now he's got more costs. So I mean, you can do it on your own, but it's getting harder. And it's getting, I think what they're trying to do is discourage people without experience to get out of it. And you saw that with Judge Yates that day, where he had never seen me before, he didn't know my experience, and he was hammering on me. He was just being mean to me like he did Hazen. But then he saw me go on my 5-minute spiel, and he goes, oh, okay, so when would you like them out? On Sunday. Well, why is that? I listed on my reason why I felt they should be out rather than 2 or 3 weeks on the road. Okay, he turned to the tent and said, I'd like you out by noon on Sunday. And they're like, but it's cold outside.
You can't kick me out because it's cold. No.
I've
That's
kicked
the
people
power
out.
company.
I kicked moms out with kids out for Christmas. And the judges have enforced it. Oh, yeah. If they don't pay their rent, I'm sorry.
Accountability.
It's not,
They failed their own kids.
it's not a charity. Both of them had income assistance, and they spent the income assistance on November 26th on gifts for their kids rather than the roof over their head.
I give the gifts to the kids and then serve the parents.
One thing too that's come up a lot
It's not the kids'
recently
fault.
Can I ask something? Can you garnish income assistance? Do you know, anybody know? Okay, sorry, I don't mean to, does anybody know what garnishee means?
Yeah.
Everybody should? No, okay, if there's not, garnishee means after you get a judgment, you can go take paychecks, you can go take bank accounts, you can do things. So garnishee means you seize bank accounts, you seize paychecks, employers, whatever. Can you garnish income assistance? That's the question.
I'm guessing no.
Guessing no. The answer is not directly. However, that money goes into their bank account.
So you can garnish their bank account.
Garnish their bank account. So just because they're on income assistance, don't think you're not going to get anything.
That's one of the legislations that we're going to be attacking. Okay?
Now,
I don't like social assistance, not because, say Chris is on social assistance or AISH or some type of income support. There's a third-party form where the check can go directly to me every month, and then they get the balance of the check for them. That's the only way to do it in Alberta. That's the only way you should do it, to get them to sign a third-party agreement. And it's like, oh, we don't do it. Yes, it is. You go to your social worker. I'm not giving you keys until I see that form signed, and I know I'm going to get that check next month on the 26th.
everybody knows what AISH is?
Just back up,
Yeah.
Rob, and just say that, for the, again, what the form is.
It's a third-party agreement form that's provided by income support. They don't like doing it because, again, Alberta is the only province in Canada that gives all the money to the tenant, gives all the money to the worker. Every other province pays directly to the landlord. And in turn, Alberta has the largest amount of fraud workers. So it's a job creation project, is all it is.
So with the AISH form, you can get it as, you can have your tenant, if you're going to take an AISH person, do your homework, find out why they're coming to you and why they aren't where they were. There's some big issues there.
Yeah.
Okay. And you get that form, they sign it, do not give it to them to take to the worker, because it won't get there. Sign it, you take it to their worker, you give it to them, and then it's in the process. What happens is you get a check in the mail. The check comes to you every month around the 20,
It's changed
23rd.
now, it's the first, just recently. Last 30 days it's changed now, it's going to be the first.
Okay, so it's the first, whatever. So it's coming to you, but here's the catch with that. They can withdraw that without any notice.
They can pick up their phone and call their social worker on the 25th or on the 20th or so. Just say, yeah, my landlord's being a jerk.
I don't want to pay.
I don't want to pay. They can do that. It's not, so when you hear the term, oh, it's guaranteed money. No, it's not. And here's the accountability again. I've had social workers, I actually got an email from, I emailed the social worker saying, hey, this isn't working. Your tenant needs to start looking for a new place. I'm not evicting her yet, but you need to start issuing a new place. She sent an email to her tenant and accidentally CC'd me. And you know what it said? It said, we're just going to stop payment on the check this month. What I want you to do is I want you to call the building inspector, the fire inspector, the health inspector, and I want you to call the fire department, and I want you to call the RCMP and tell the RCMP he's not assaulting you, but he's being a little harassing and flirtatious with you. This was from a social worker to the female tenant. Oh yeah. I saw this email, I printed it out, I went right down to the freaking provincial building, I lost my shit.
Yeah.
I said, I want this person fired and I want them gone, like today. I said, I'm going to the press with this email.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, they were fired on the spot that day. I said, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Because, and again, the social workers a large, I don't mean all social workers, a large majority of social workers have been in that shitty position on being on social assistance. I spoke at a seminar at the college about 8 years ago. I've never been invited back. And it was on social work, it was on what to expect. And I sat and I said, oh, I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the rest of the 2-hour seminar. And my mouth dropped and I asked questions. I said, you need to tell me that you guys are just teaching these people how to make more money for themselves, how to create more income for themselves, how to join boards, how to make boards, how to create boards, and you've lost focus on who you're helping. Well, we have to make a living too. So what they're doing is they're just justifying their job. And they're taking on more and more, they're saying, well, if you come up with a way that we need something, put it forward to it, put in the funding, and you'll get another $3,000 a year to sit on this board. You only have to put an hour into each month. They've lost sight of what they're doing, social workers. And not all of them, there's some good ones out there. But when I attended this, I said, this is a joke. You guys are just trying to justify a role and create a budget to make more funding and hire more social workers for more people on social assistance. You're not trying to help them get off social assistance.
Feeding the bear.
You're feeding the bear. Exactly. Don't feed the bear.
Welcome to our world.
So going back to the whole social, I was leading into something else in the initiatives. When you have a wreck and you go in there and you look and you go, oh my God, what a mess. Absolutely is. You also can see it as a potential opportunity. And you're thinking, what the hell are you talking about, Chris? How is an opportunity? Where I'm going with this is that you now have to go clean up a mess where they've left everything laying around. Put your investigator hat on and start looking at all the papers they left. I was having my partner with me hauling boxes out. I said, did you go through that box? Well, no, we're just throwing it out. I go, did you go through the box? Why? Because there's stuff that they leave, because they leave everything. Where I'm going is when they get their stuff from social assistance or H, it says on the stuff what bank it's going into. And how much they're getting and when they get it. It's like here it all is. So when you sue them, you're going to Toronto Dominion at 123 Albert Street and you're serving the garnishee because you know it's coming in on the 22nd, so you're serving it on the 18th, so they're freezing the bank account, the money comes, boom, it's coming to you. There's so much more to look at a mess. I know it's hard to look at it.
If you see paperwork, grab it and read it.
Everything.
Everything. I've called probation officers. I had a tenant that I picked up and he started making a mistake. He called the RCMP and I'm at the side of the suite and I'm like, probation officer. Hey, has he shown up lately? No, you know, he's living in one of my places. He's disturbing the peace right now. I'll find out who the officer is. The probation officer called the RCMP. The RCMP called the officer. Next thing you know, oh shit. My dog used to never discount paperwork that you see inside the suite. It might be a gold mine. The owners of Vibe in Sylvan Lake, they have a little restaurant there. We were going out with the bailiff, Hazen. He says, what's your name again? I tell him, he said, oh my God, I'm faxing you something. Sends a fax. It's service for a $250,000 lawsuit or something like that. They were being sued by somebody for this aviation scam they ran in Saskatchewan, and Co-op was suing them for $250,000 that they embezzled. So when the officer, the bailiff, was dragging them out of the property nicely, I said, by the way, there you go, serving you with something else. And they're just like, what? It's a small world. These people that are doing this are doing it again and again and again. That's why we're trying to develop a database so you can see it.
We're not sure what that's going to look like. That's our trouble right now, is trying to figure out how to do it. Actually, Gordon and I were talking about it. Where do we go with a spreadsheet, or do we go with a full-blown website that you have to be a member of, and then you sign in to go and check? Like, what does this look like? So we struggle with the growth of this right now because we got all.
And you want it alphabetical, so you can just type in the name and it comes up.
And I want it so that who's contributing that information, because they have to be accountable to contribute that. There's a whole dynamic to it. So this little idea of, just sitting on my couch when I go, list these stupid renters, turns into this, oh my God, like this is a needed thing. Right? So
it's like what we're doing, it's a niche, and we're branching out into industrial and commercial. And I recently got a phone call from a headhunter in Vancouver. He's nicknamed the headhunter because he works for the banks. He goes out to someone who's struggling with their mortgage, whether it be a simple house or a big 6-bay unit in industrial area, and he decides whether or not the bank's going to foreclose, or maybe there's some direction that we can give them Maybe we can help them get it back on track. Maybe they just had a shitty management company or bad knowledge or a couple of bad renters, and he decides this. So he's gonna be contracting me and Hazen to help them do this, rather than him fly out here, because it's crazy in Alberta right now. People are losing their homes. He doesn't like doing it. He wants us to be able to help them get back on track. How can we get them back on track? And if we've got a proven track record, that's gonna, the Bank of Vancouver, because that's where most of the corporate head offices are for banks. And same with Toronto, they're gonna hear from us in our recommendation saying, well, we think we can get them back on track. Give us 90 days. The bank at the end of the day doesn't want to take back a property. They lose money on it. They love interest. At the end of the day, if you work with the banks, they'll let you keep their property. They'll help you finance a project that maybe.
If you're a realtor, that's opportunity for you, isn't it?
That's opportunity.
You see that as opportunity to make a business deal, and that's where you do a lot of your stuff. Is you see opportunities of foreclosures, you see those things.
Yeah.
And this is a great means to bring that full circle again. Now, you're here for investment opportunities. When things are going sideways,
and we don't mind if you're a part of that site. If you have a question, PM us. If we can answer, we'll give you a quick bit of legislation. We'll fire off a quick answer. If it's 10 o'clock at night, it may not happen until the next day.
But I do have a question about eviction notices. So I look back in my lease and it says in there that I can charge $25 the first day they're late and then $5 per day after that. And then in another section, it even talks about interest that I can charge. So I'm trying to do up the spreadsheet of how far behind they are and all of that.
Are you
And
taking them to court?
no, but I'm gonna attach it with the eviction notice, the 14-day eviction notice, to show what's going.
That's 22 on late payments and interest.
Technically.
There's nothing in the legislation that will enforce it.
Right.
Okay. What I would relabel it as is administration costs. Okay. So put in your lease that you will be responsible for any and all administration costs in collecting the rent or pursuing the collection of rent. Okay. And then document how you're doing it. Because if you just walk into a judge and say, well, they've been late every month for the last 12 months, and I want $50 here and $100 here, the judge would be like, Now, if you walk in and say, I'd like to cover my costs of trying to collect the rent in January. Well, what do you mean? The judge would say, well, here's my nice little ledger of what I had to do. I had to make 3 phone calls. I had to go put a notice on their door. I had to knock on their door. I had to go to the workplace. Oh, well, now I understand why you want to mention still $75, because they were breaching their lease, because it's their responsibility to make arrangements to pay rent by the 1st. Right. It's not yours. But in a courtroom, you'll never get a judgment for late payment. We had to kick somebody off the site 6 months ago because she was, oh no, I get that from the judges in Grand Prairie all the time. I was like, great, show me the cases. I would love it. I would use it as a precedent so fast it would make a head spin in the courtroom. There's no way I'm going up to a judge and asking for late fees, because I know you've seen what happens when the judge has his no return side. They don't need an excuse to get angry.
So what if she has sent me payment and labeled it as late?
That's
payment?
fine. Just
I can
move past it. Pretend it never happened and don't ever bring it up again, because legally you cannot collect late payments.
But I don't have to label that as rent or. Okay.
I would just get them back on track.
I'm missing what you're saying. You said she sent you additional money saying, here's your late payment?
Yeah, I made her label it in the.
See, the judge will say you voluntarily paid.
But hang on. Why are you concerned? What's your concern about getting that? You don't have it.
Nothing.
Oh.
I'm trying to do up another spreadsheet, which is still late.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking, like, I'm trying to add it all up, and I'm like, okay, so it's $25, but now she's like 3 months late. So now am I adding on the $25 for every month, every time, and then $5? Like, it's just starting to get so convoluted. I'm just like, I don't know.
When I'm charging administration costs.
Can I do that if it wasn't in my lease?
Well, you have to have it labeled out why you're charging additional costs in your lease. So if you are charging administration costs, how I call them, another label for late fees, I have a reason to do it. So if I'm writing up a receipt, let's say you came in on the 5th, I say I charge $100 after the 5th. You show up on the 5th, I put right on your receipt that your rent's $1,000. I'll say $900 towards your rent, $100 toward administration costs for me having to track you down, you coming in here late, me having to make an additional deposit. I'm not gonna write all that down, but I'll explain it. And then I show $100 in arrears in rent. I'm showing them that the costs are covered. Well, that's not there, but it doesn't matter. You now owe $100 in rent, which is enforceable under an eviction.
So even though that wasn't, if I don't have that in the lease, I can still do that on receipts, or no?
No, you need it in the lease. If you're gonna charge for something outside rent, there has to be some kind of description. You just can't say, well, I had to do this. Right.
So how does Danelle go forward now, knowing that this fee, what she's doing isn't right and she can't implement this next thing? What is she?
Yeah,
You
do I
learn
still-
for the
Yeah.
next.
Do I
You'll learn
still
from
put
the
it
next
on there though and hope she pays
She
it?
just keeps, because
Status
if
quo the way
you-
she
if
is?
you ever drag you in the courtroom, she has copied that lease, she has 6 receipts saying you charge late, you charge your administration cost. That judge is gonna say, where is it inside your lease?
Wait, hang on.
It is
Can,
the lease.
once
She
the
needs to
lease
move
is
forward.
up, and you renegotiate a new lease, can you bring that lease in at
Yes.
that point?
Right.
There you
Yes.
go. There's your opportunity. So if you're in a lease, renegotiate a new lease.
Mhm.
Or when they're gone, fix it for the next one.
So
Do you have a lease, the template that you
Mhm.
went through? And
Oh, yeah,
that you're
I've
comfortable
been working on it for 20 years, it's always changing.
Well, I
Rain,
know mine's
Rain
not that
actually
big,
took
but
my
it's-
lease 10 years ago, and Rain had to pay me $17,000.
Wow.
Somebody from Rain Group and came down on me, and they wanted me to take something over, and they handed me this, and I'm like, where'd you get this? Oh, $99, Rain sold it to us.
Whoa.
I picked it up, phoned them and said, where'd you get this? Oh, we made this up our own. I'm like, really? Because I have a copyright on that in 2004. When did you guys do this? 2006. I'm like, well, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna have a little chit chat about this. And I have a lifetime membership for Rain on the deal too. I was a question. Yeah.
So if you have like late fees in your lease,
Mhm.
is it then able to collect late fees or should,
It's in my
for the
lease.
next lease, I should be saying.
I would take them out and change to administration costs. And then if somebody says to you, what are these administration costs? You say, the notices, picking up the phone, because again, you say to the person, as per the act, it says you are responsible for paying your rent on or before the first of each month. Now, if you've got somebody that you've made arrangements because of the economy, you're handwriting in there, saying, well, you pay half the rent on the first and half the rent on the 15th. And I've seen that happen. Lots of people do when the economy changes, or maybe they lost their job and they fell a little behind. You try, because they're good tenants. Good tenants are hard to come by, so accommodate them. Don't be ruthless because you turn a good tenant into a bad tenant by being ruthless. You know, my sister used to work at all places in the Jets Club as a bartender. So, oh, your brother Rob, he's an asshole. I said, how much money do you owe him? Well, what does that mean? What do you make? Well, how much money do you owe? So you owe money, so that makes him an asshole. He said, collections. I can't get a new truck because of him. Well, you should pay your bill.
Yeah.
Be accountable.
Be accountable. Nobody holds anyone accountable anymore. They're scared to. People are scared to hold people accountable.
Themselves.
Has anyone here ever been threatened by a tenant? Anybody else?
Not yet.
I've been threatened by a lot.
Right, the more properties, the more
Yeah.
property you get, the more experience you get, you're going to run into it. I've had my life threatened, I stopped counting. Oh, I know HAs. Sure you do.
Bottom line is if you're in the right, they'll say whatever they gotta say to look good in front of their friends, but they're not gonna keep chasing down that group, right?
I had a girl threaten to report me to RICA, and then in the next text, about a day later, she was, I'm gonna report you to the Law Society of Alberta. I'm gonna report you. Go right ahead, I'm in the right, I'm not concerned about anything. If she did call RICA, RICA said, he's not a member. How are you involving? How is this applicable? At the end of the day, I'm the agent of the courts. I operate outside the legislation by RICA and the Law Society. I operate under the judge's good grace. So if he wants to tear me a new one that day, okay. Move forward.
Everybody's heard of the circle of violence when it comes to family violence? Anybody understand that? It starts off, and then there's the slowly, the manipulations, the narcissism and everything as it goes, and then it escalates into violence, or sorry, the words, and then the violence, and then it goes back up, and then it starts over trying to get back to a honeymoon stage again, and that's the circle of control, circle of violence.
Mm-hmm.
This is very similar to that. There's that circle where you will get in, and I this is personally how I refer to it, is to get into it, you have a renter, everything starts off good in a relationship, right? They come in, great, oh, glad to have you. Then it starts, there's this complaint, there's that complaint, then it gets worse, and this is what I'm going to do to you, and this is what I'm going to call, and I'm going to call my lawyer, and out of that it goes, and then in the end, when you're right, because you stood your ground, dealing through all this nastiness, you stood your ground, and outside the court, okay, well, if I just give you this, can we be done with it? See this circle, and then they're going to go after somebody else again.
Because this person, again, has never been held accountable by any landlord. They're 35 years old, and they've had 10 landlords, and not one of them is held accountable. Because they're terrified. Well, they said they got a lawyer. So what? A lawyer's gonna try, that is the first one I hear. I'm gonna call my lawyer. Great. Would you like my number to have him call me, or who's your lawyer? I can call. I'm not gonna give you my lawyer thing. You're telling me you have a lawyer. So I have to tell you that I shouldn't be communicating with you anymore for your own common sense. Tell me your lawyer's name. Click. Yeah, that's what I thought.
That was my post. I don't know if I put that part of my post in last night, but that was one of the words. I'm gonna take this to my band counsel and tell them, and I'm going to tell my lawyer. Great. I don't think I posted the part where I said, good. One, you can't afford a lawyer, and two, I don't care what your band says, they have no control over.
If someone said they're gonna hire a lawyer, that's really good news.
Because the lawyer's gonna tell them.
The lawyer might, I've seen bad letters. I can pay a lawyer $250 to write whatever I want them to say. And they'll fax it to my office. It means squat. It's a demand letter. It's hoping to intimidate you. Don't ever be intimidated by a letter from a law firm. Get your own advice.
Yeah.
Or I've had lawyers phone me up and say, around this, and lawyers in regular know me. They'll phone me up, hey, this guy's claiming this, 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 and this. It's like, so you're gonna take him on as a client? Well, they gave me a $500 retainer. I told them that me and you are gonna talk for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, probably 3. And how about this? How about you just come down and have a coffee? I'll open the file. Or I'll come up and visit you. Or would you like me to fax it to you? Then I get a phone call back. I'll take their money. I'll tell them I want a $5,000 retainer, and I'm probably gonna lose, but I'll take their money. And then the lawyer will tell them that. That's what they told people from Sylvan Lake. They were gonna come after me and sue me. I said, great, come on down. And the lawyer from Calgary called me, sent a demand letter. I said, that's nice. I took the demand letter off my desk. Then another lawyer from Evenson, same thing, another demand letter. I said, great. Until I see a court stamp on it, it means nothing.
And it does, and they know that. And they think that they're controlling you by doing that. And when those letters come, you can spend whatever you want to have it, whatever you want. And I call them a PFO. Go in, please. That's their letter, a PFO letter to you to get you off their case. And do what he says.
Yep. Put it in the file, close the file.
Don't be intimidated by those letters. If you're wrong, be intimidated. But if you're doing it by the book, whatever, letter's gone, bring on. Oh, by the way, you know what? You love that they tried to sue you. You know why? Because it's cheaper for you.
And they saved you the $100 to file.
Because it's a $25 countersuit. Yeah. You say, oh yeah, please do sue me. I'm here. Serve me the papers.
That way you don't even have to track them down. You don't have to hire a processor. You know where they are now. I love it. That's the best thing in the world. Don't be scared if you see a tenant sue you. That's going to happen this week.
And you get the last say on the on the paperwork, right? You get to respond.
Right.
You know,
Which is powerful.
Yeah,
it's a colorful industry. That's a good word. It's a colorful industry. Take everything in stride. Don't lose sleep over it. I've had people phone me bawling. And all you gotta do is, if someone's harassing you, a tenant on the phone, and you've decided to hire my services, my first thing is send them one text. Do not contact me again, or I will involve our CMP, period. Okay? And if they text you after that, it's no different than domestic violence, couples. You do not respond under any circumstance, because as soon as you do, our CMP says it's a civil matter, because you responded. That's when I phone the RCMP. I say that the landlord is being harassed. I will have the landlord call. Please involve me if you need a third party to help you explain, officer. So they call, they open up a complaint, they phone the tenant. At this point, there's no criminal charges. The RCMP will advise the tenant they have an agent. You are not to contact them, go to their house, harass them, phone them in any way. 99.9% of the time that works.
Last night, that happened to me last night. In that conversation, I think I posted again, it keeps coming up. It's such a classic last night. In the end, it says, stop texting me and talking to me, or I'm gonna report to the RCMP for harassment. My answer back to him was this: stop giving me things to respond to, or I'll have you charged for harassment.
Yes.
Which is bullshit. But the point was, it ended. It ended at that point. There was no more come on.
But if you ever get a call from a government official, like an RCMP officer, that you feel like he's bullying you, just say, yes, officer, thank you. Hang up the phone politely. There's no point in don't give him ammunition. Don't get into an argument with him. get your own information. Because a lot of times the RCMP, when they're dealing with the landlord tenant act, are just misinformed. Or they bought the story.
Yeah.
They bought the story, hook, line, and sinker. These are professional tenants. They know the wording. They know how to say things. They've done it a dozen times with a dozen officers. So unfortunately.
Your Black Falls incident, you had basically one of the stenos get involved in Black Falls with a renter, took her side, ended up the steno at the police
Office
station.
manager.
Office manager phones him and starts ripping on him. No police are involved yet.
And she's talking to me like a police officer. I finally went, "Are you in the cop?" She's like, "Excuse me." I'm like, "I'd like to know your badge number and your designation." She's like, "Well, I'm not an RC officer." And it's Friday night at 7:00. I'm enjoying a ride. You put a goddamn cop on the phone right bloody now. And then an officer on speakerphone. So now my privacy is being violated. The female officer in the room who was standing there listening to this gets on the phone. And I'm on speakerphone. I'm like, "I'm not on speakerphone." "Yeah, take me off speakerphone right now or I'm going to have the privacy commission crawl right up your ass." And I'm mad. I mean, this is an officer and an office manager that are so far out of line. And they were, again, they had no idea the officer was from out of province. And this is an office manager. She has no knowledge. Their job is to help the RCMP, paperwork, follow up, help. They were talking to me like I was the worst. This is, again, Sarah Wester Green.
But you have the tenant with the old for me story.
That broke into the home. I stole her stuff. It was sitting in storage under the Abandonment Act, under the clause that says, if it's under $2,000, you don't have to think. Right now we have one being cleaned. It's obvious under $2,000. But when you take pictures of everything, if you do a search on my name right now, there is a case out there that I had to pay $5,000. I had it overturned in Court of Queens, but it doesn't show that because there was an error in law. I had it overturned because I didn't want to pay nobody $5,000. Okay, a lot more to that story, but again, I learned from that. That was 14 years ago. I learned that 30 pictures and 6 witnesses are not enough. 2 people came in with me. We did a video walking through the apartment. Everything was there. I had a ruler so I could show size, interpretation, making sure everything, the date was recorded, the notice is on the door now. And the judges hate it because they know why I'm doing it, because there was an error in law. They made a judgment based on their heart. A judge said, "Oh, sure, I'll give you $1,200 for that mattress and box spring out of your grandma's basement. I'll give you another $2,000 to replace the pleather couch with no legs and has tears down the side." You know, they will, if you don't do your diligence, you might find a sympathetic judge that gives them everything. It will happen. Even with the RCMP, you can have the strongest bulletproof case, and if there's a crease in one side, that's an opening for a judge to give it. So be as diligent and over the top as you can. Bring witnesses. Make sure they see things like the pile of fruit flies that have been there. Make sure that if you're taking things to the dump that's under $2,000, that you take pictures of everything in there, take pictures of it in the back of the U-Haul, you get to the dump, take pictures of it in the dumpster. So there's no questions about what was thrown out, because tenants will make crap seem like the Taj Mahal. They will. They'll make it sound like you threw everything out and you're the most unreasonable person in the world. And all they have to do is prove a hint of doubt, and that judge will give it to them. So it's that part of the industry under abandonment. Getting back to those 2 officers, or the officer and the ops manager, they were bullying me, telling me I had to give her access or they were going to come and arrest me. They were going to come arrest me right now. I got a little bit colorful with the ops manager, and I got very colorful with the officer, and I said, "I dare you. I freaking dare you." And as soon as I got the phone, I phoned the watch commander in Red Deer, because for some reason, Black Falls RCMP wasn't taking my phone calls anymore. And the watch commander phoned the corporal, somebody in charge, told me not to worry about it. And the next day I went out there and I had the 4 pages on abandonment, and I left them with their manager who was in charge. And that officer was actually reprimanded. She's being transferred now up to Northwest Headquarters.
It's a choice.
That's a choice. Okay. She's being transferred now. And the office manager had to take several courses on dealing with the public, and now she's not even allowed to speak. And she's one of the ones that are signing up for the course in April. RCMP now are so happy with our relationship that we're trying to educate the officers rather than throw them under the bus and report them to public complaints. Because when they get, that's a big deal for an officer being report public complaints. I'd rather not make them. So we've offered to teach a free course for blackballs, for Sullivan, for Redmond. And we're gonna try and get some references, and then we'll start charging for it. But we wanna get along with the RCMP and help them better educate. So if you do something, and that's why you document. So when a police officer does call, because it is a police matter, you'll either file or actually officer, you might mistake. Don't ever use the word you're wrong, or it's not RCMP. Your wording is so important. I learned this from Chris. Okay? You're picking a fight if you use the wrong wording, because RCMP don't want to be wrong. Just like a judge doesn't like to be wrong. If you find that they're making an error, I've got the legislation right here. Would you like me to email or fax it to you? They might be a little grumpy. A good officer would be like, sure. The officer in Blackfalls didn't. She was like, no, I don't care. Really? She didn't want to see the legislation. I'm right, you're wrong, I'm gonna arrest you. Okay.
I go back to what I said to you at the very beginning when I said, so officially now the RCMP are no longer enforcing provincial legislations. The long awkward pause, let me get a supervisor comes on. I'm a landlord. Do you not know this stuff? Well, what do you mean? All of a sudden it's an education process.
And if you can educate an officer, not only did you've made an ally, right? Especially with that officer, you made an ally and you helped him understand something without rubbing his nose in it. There's even another part of the act, it's called Innkeepers Act.
I was just gonna ask about that.
Okay?
That's a great one. There's a lot of
The
power.
Innkeepers Act has power until they get information. Okay? If you've got, anybody here have a place that you rent out rooms, just rooms? Have you ever thought about rooms?
I have in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're walked into a hotel and on the back of the door, there's that little piece of card sitting on the door and it says Innkeepers Act, it's only a brief section of the act. Okay? The act itself is only 6 or 7 pages long. You know those, well, prime example, we're in the theater. Remember the theater in the bathroom? They have those little plastic things and a checklist for the staff that, okay, you can put that, if you've got a home, first of all, you have to live in it. Okay? Or you have to have a family member living in it to be under the Innkeepers Act. There's no way around that. You cannot buy a home. Cordell Nielsen learned that the hard way. Okay? You cannot buy a home, rent out all the rooms, and have nobody living there that's not a family member. You have to have a family member there. Okay? So his mom was living in one. He had a second one, but it was just a buddy. Innkeepers Act didn't apply, and he got hung out to dry in the legislation. Okay? He was living in one when he first started doing this. Okay? Called me up, needed some help. I said, do you have a copy of the Innkeepers Act on every door? No, you need to get it on the front door, the back door, and on the inside of every suite that you're renting out of the Innkeepers Act. Catch 22. It's only good for 3 months. Have you ever noticed that hotels, when they're renting a room, every so often they'll say, we're going to move you to another room. Because if you're there for more than 90 days in the same room, the Residential Tenancy Act now applies.
Oh, really?
So you have to switch them to another room. Now, most officers don't know that, thank God. Because when the Innkeepers Act, and you want to throw somebody out, and they've been there 9 months, I don't say it, because again, it's not in that 7 pages. It's not in that 7 pages of the Innkeepers Act. It's in the municipal regulations, the Residential Tenancy Dispute Board, and it's buried. So it's very unlikely an officer would know, but it's not worth taking the risk. If you have a 4-bedroom house and you're renting out the rooms downstairs or on the second floor with house privileges, every 3 months, every 90 days, put in there that you'll rotate them into another room. And then you've got a fresh innkeeper. You don't even have to put the room number down. They're renting a room, but you have to move them into a different room every 90 days, or now the Residential Tenancy Act applies. And again, most police don't know that. So if you buy a property that's assisting, you need to throw somebody out, cross your fingers and hope the officer doesn't know that. I did run into an officer who didn't know that once. He says, I could hear him on the phone because I was dealing with it with Cordell. And the officer asked, how long have you been there? Cordell said, I don't know how long she's been there. And the officer's like, well, I needed days. So Cordell, well, she's been there 84 days. And there's this big awkward pause. I'm listening on the phone. I'm like, oh crap, we have an educated officer. Local. 84 days. And the officer's like, I'm sorry. He doesn't have to let you back in. And he can seize your goods and sell them for what you owe. Residential Tenancy Act doesn't apply. But if it would have been 90 days, now Cordell would have had to store them. He would have had to get a writ to sell the stuff. It would have been a nightmare for him. So it's becoming educated. If you're going to get into this industry, read, attend court, see how things go in court, see some of the horror stories. I mean, what's an hour out of your day on a Tuesday or a Friday and sit in court and have a good laugh?
Yeah. So how does it work then if you want to have a sort of student rental with, you know, 4 bedrooms, 4 different students, that is no matter what can be under the residential tenancy act.
Yeah, you get a 10-month semester.
You know, well, what you'd have to do is if you're under the Residential Tenancy Act and you're renting out a bunch of rooms and house privilege, you're actually renting out the entire rental. Let's say it's $500 a door, you're actually renting it all to them for $2,000. You're not renting it out room by room, because once it's under the Residential Tenancy Act, it's no longer a room with house privileges. They have a room, they can go anywhere they want in the house.
Are you living there?
No, I'm just actually making an offer on a place, and it's near Mount Royal College, so I was considering this, and I'm kind of starting to wonder if maybe I should.
So what if you needed to vacate one person, bring in another person, maybe?
Yeah.
And if it's under the Residential Tenancy Act, that's a lot of work. If it's under the Innkeepers Act, that's less work.
But she can't do innkeepers because she's not living there.
Yeah.
That's right.
So your residential tenancy act.
But if you have a grandson, a daughter, anyone that's family member that wants to live there and go to school, you can do that. A lot of people do that.
I have seen where one room is kept for the person that's living there. Like my mom lived with somebody that he would come and spend the weekend every
If they could prove
month.
somebody wasn't living there and it was being used as a ruse, the courts would throw you under the bus. Because the courts aren't stupid. Just you saying that to me, a judge would go like this.
Right.
That's judge glass right there. Really? Glasses come off? Uh-oh. No, you don't want to play with the gray areas a lot. Tenants do it all the time, but landlords don't play with the gray area.
So is everybody, like if I've got 4 students in there, $500 each, what does their lease look like? There are 4 people that have.
I would just rent them the whole house under one lease with all 4 of their names on it.
Okay, all right, because I'm just trying to.
And if one moves out?
They don't necessarily all know each other.
That's fine, they'll get to know each other. I mean, they're going to college, you're gonna get to know your roommates.
So what if you find
What she's getting at though is that, and I see it, is you have a house and you're having people that are now coming to meet people. Don't know each other before you get there. They're renting rooms, so it's basically.
At different times.
Like.
At different times, yeah, start with
Yeah,
one.
it's basically like a res.
So you told the first one that you agreed to, oh, by the way, you're gonna be on the lease with these 3 other people who have.
That's the problem if you don't live there. There's a lot of people that do it, but it's starting to become more and more apparent in the courts and get slapped for
But
it.
the Innkeepers Act covers all of the hotels and all those guys too. They don't have families in there. How does that work?
But they're also moving people out for 90 days and they're a registered hotel. What they're doing is that clause for the 90 days is in a residential area. It's geared exactly toward that, to prevent landlords abusing the Residential Tenancy Act and abusing the Innkeepers Act. So what they did was they put a 90-day clause in there, so it can't be abused. I mean, if you got a great tenant, she pays her rent, she's doing her work, you never have to move. You got some guy that's being a little shady, first of all, you should just get him out. But I would move him around. I wouldn't let him sit there for more than 90 days. I would just look for another tenant.
Rob, do you sell your leases? Can people buy them from you?
We are going to be setting that up through the association. The only form that I like from Service Alberta is their move-ins and move-outs. It's the only form. The triplicate form that you see, it's the only one I recommend. The 24-hour notices, I have my own. The leases themselves, I have my own. We are going to be putting it together, so when we start doing these associations, it'll come with your association. What we want to do is eventually everybody in our association is using the same leases, the same form, so when it does go to court or it becomes a legislative issue, the judge will see and go, oh, I know this one. I'm not worried at all. Like that one that says pay or stay, judge sees that, he's like, no good. This whole application is out the door.
So at this point, if I wanted a copy.
Today, no, but in soon, 30 to 60 days, we're going to be having it set up.
Oh, here's what you could do. Just rent the place off and get a copy.
And so,
Copyrighted copy.
no, we're going to be making it available.
We have one here.
I actually just wanted to say this is all really great information. We do have about 45 minutes left, and I think you answered like all the questions that I was going to ask, and you know, everything that you spoke about. And I wanted to give the opportunity to other people that have questions, maybe unique to their situation.
Of course.
If they have any.
Do you want to give everyone a break?
Mine is long, but typically how long is your lease?
My leases are 6 pages. 6 pages, the back page is the rules and regulations, the front page is information, the second page is, my leases make up legislation and personal interpretation of the legislation. but they're very clearly laid out and they have initial points. Some of them have 3 or 4 initials, just like a real estate contract. And then they have initials at the bottom of the page, then they have a final signature and a witness at the back page. So I mean, mine are very, very in-depth. You cannot put things in there. If you put one item in there that is not governed by the Residential Tenancy Act or any part of the other acts, that judge can take that whole lease and throw it in the garbage and say, now he's gonna go back to the act. And now it's a month-to-month lease, and you're very limited on your scope. So you have to make sure that lease is legitimate. The internet is the worst source of leases and forms there is. Read the act. Get the act, know the knowledge. If you read on 24-hour notices, it tells you in the act how to write what needs to be in there. You can do it on a word processor. If you read the act, same thing with evictions, you have to read the act. If you don't understand, ask questions. Don't ask, what's that one? There's a site that's called, I think it's Bad Tenants and Bad Landlords. Yeah, Bad Tenants and Landlords Alberta. If you're on there, take yourself off. It's awful. It's got 1,500 members, and about 1,400 of them are tenants, and they're professional tenants. Okay? Cal is not too bad. They have about 500 members. They do have some moles in there. They've had some problems, but again, they allow advertising, they allow solicitation. So I mean, it's not a bad one to be on just to kind of watch and learn. I'm on Bad Tenants and Landlords Alberta because it helps me identify the bad tenants.
Right.
Because they come at you like crazy. I'll put something out there. Oh, you're a asshole.
I'm on there because I watch for landlords that posting stuff and looking for help. And then I write them, I say PM to you, so they look, because you know, on Facebook. So then I tell them, I said, you're a landlord? Yeah. You realize that the page you're on, that tenants are on there and they can see what you say about them or anything? They go, no, I didn't realize that.
And it's not a private site, it's a public site. Now the privacy, now that privacy issue becomes critical. You're talking about something that you're in a contract obligation. Okay, now here's something probably nobody here knows. If a tenant suddenly skips out, are you bound by confidentiality anymore? No. They have done a substantial breach of their lease. They're not bound by confidentiality or contract. They've terminated the lease. They've skipped out. So if you want to do a write-up on our site about them, taking pictures, say, oh my God, this is how Chris left my home. Holes in the walls, urine, defecation, all these things sound horrible, but they happen all over the place. You can post that on that site. There's no law that says you can't. That lease is terminated.
So while they're in a lease with you, you cannot mention their name?
You've got to be very careful on where you put it and what you say. It has to be truth-based. It should be on a private site. I don't like putting it on a public site because I just don't want to give privacy commissions ammunition to change the regulations as it sits right now. Okay. Why give ammunition to something? I had the Federal Privacy Commission tear me a new one because they were saying, oh, you said this and this and this on. I have a site called Nightmare Former Tenants. Really good one to entertain. That's all it is, private and entertaining. And it's worst case scenarios. It's scary, like your jaw hit the floor. We come up on one, Janelle Osborne, if that name ever crosses, there was a pile of snow in the driveway. When the pile of snow got removed, it wasn't a pile of snow. It was 2 inches of snow over 4 to 6 cubic yards of kitty litter that she was just dumping out the window. A pile, 7, 8 feet high, 20 feet wide, kitty litter.
Cats had a big box.
Yeah. And yet, if we did this as landlords, the health board would fine us. If tenants do it, there's no fines. There's a list just like.
Who's the landlord or property owner wasn't doing proper
I took over the property and I went, whoa.
Oh.
And I evicted her ass. Because I walked through this place and I was just mortified. But this can happen, really, really short frame of time. Things happen and you just have to be super diligent, have to watch. You had a question?
Well, actually, it was something you mentioned at the very beginning about urinal hockey pucks. And I think that was in with the pot growing or whatever. So can you explain that? What were they?
Growers will use hockey pucks, like the urinal pucks.
Yeah.
Let's say you've got a room downstairs, it's like a laundry room. I've seen them disconnect dryer hoses, and they've still got a vent outside, and they'll hook up a fan, okay, like an intake fan, just when you plug in, and they'll put a hockey puck, I'll just call them urinal puck, inside the tube. And some of them will get more intricate. They do like bafflers, like a muffler. and they'll put 7 or 8 pucks in that tube. And then they turn the intake fan, and when it goes out the outside, it no longer smells like cannabis.
Oh, that's what they're using for.
There's indicators, like if you see wiring taken apart, you see lighting set up, you're driving by your property, you see blue lights at night, that's a really bad indication. You better hope they have a fish.
The reason I ask is sometimes when I go do my walkthroughs, like, I'll check, I'll say, I'll check underneath the sinks in the bathroom or the kitchen. I'm just checking for leaks of water and thing, but really I'm looking to see if they have the big 4-liter jugs of hydrogen peroxide and everything on the map or something, you know,
I can tell you tip
So I
one.
wasn't sure where to see the.
Smart.
I'll tell you tip one. We had last year, 2 years ago, one of the buildings, RKL Construction owns, my partner. Somebody called someone, the hazmat team, Red Deer has a bus. Anybody aware that Red Deer has a hazmat team bus now? It was the first time they got to take it out in 2018. They were very excited. They removed the guy from it and they found 80-85% of the things to make meth. That doesn't mean they're making meth. I can go into anybody's shed in this room and get 50 to 80% of the products it takes to make meth. Okay? Doesn't mean they're making meth. If you give an excuse for a city of Red Deer to run into a place and swab everything down, the health board came in there, and to justify their role in it, they shut the sweep down for 7 months. Nobody could rent it. Even though I went in there and got it clean, it was all safe for my cleaners going there, safe for the fire department to go in there, but not safe to re-rent until the swabs came back from Health Canada. And the swabs came back, and the only thing they found was an ingredient in boner pills by it. So for 7 months, the owner had to eat rent on that place because of the health board. The health board right now, I can tell you, is the biggest enemy of landlords in Alberta.
Who would have called them on that?
Oh, could have been a neighbor. He was just a hoarder. He was a little mentally unstable. He wasn't causing any problems, but he'd go down the alley and somebody's throwing out a can of paint. He'd grab that can of paint. They're throwing out a thing of chemicals, he'd grab that thing of chemicals. He's just a hoarder. He wasn't making that. He was just a hoarder. But government agencies like to jump the gun, and they had the whole hazmat team. Anybody who went to the back door of Clearview, they would have seen that whole area was cordoned off for 3 days.
I have another question. On my lease, the porch area is sort of half-assed closed off, so I actually write on the bottom of my lease, I just put, may not put your barbecue on there. And then the storeroom is so large, it could be a bedroom, but it's really not a window, and then I put on, tenant will not use the bedroom, use the storeroom as a bedroom. And then they initial decided, and then you were just saying about sometimes that judge will just, it's not legit though.
No, those are reasonable expectations. Those aren't, you're not infringing the act, you're just designating on there that that's not a bedroom for health reasons. It doesn't have
I
to
just
be.
handwrite it on and then let us initial decide.
Yeah, that's those,
okay.
the judges are looking for unreasonable things. Like these judges can consider unreasonable. Preset dates that you're gonna go in, I'm gonna come in here every Friday and do an inspection on this property. That's unreasonable. At the end of the day, the judge is looking for a reasonable expectation. If you're gonna do a violation of the act and say, I'm charging $2,800 security deposit, the rent is $1,200, that's against law. You can only charge a maximum. How many serious is everyone in this room? We haven't covered one topic, pets. It's a big, big thing. I'm gonna be posting it on our site. If there's a nice brochure that came out from Service Alberta when they redid the act. It was 2016, and it was directly related to pets, okay? Has anyone ever called you and said they have a service animal? It's going to happen. They don't.
Do you know what service animals are?
It's not a service animal. I have a friend, she teaches service animals. They are worth $25,000 to $35,000, and there's an 18 to 24 application process. And when you do get a service animal, you get a massive brochure, and you get a contract that you have to sign. You just can't walk. A person with a service animal cannot walk in here. They have to call you and let you know that they'd like reasonable access, maybe they're blind, and is it okay? Their expectations are, they just want to touch base. They want to go to a restaurant, the restaurant has to make sure they're near a ventilated area, so in case somebody has allergies. You can't deny them access, you have to provide them reasonable access. I had a girl, she was blind, she called me up and I said, I have a main floor, it has yards, exposure, and I said, let me check, because I'm not denying it, I said, let me check. So I asked the other 5 tenants, unfortunately one of the tenants was an oxygen, asthma, she said, I can't be around pets, so I phoned her back and said, this won't work. She didn't get angry, she said, completely understandable. Let me know if it changed, I'd really like to be in that building. Because I still have to respect the health aspects of other tenants. Now, the favorite thing, if you look up online, therapy or service animals, I could register my fish as a therapy animal for $15. It doesn't mean you get access to planes, restaurants. It means nothing. It means you just got to scam $50 on the internet. And somebody sent you a pretty piece of paper that said, I now have a therapy dog.
I work for the airlines and where people, everything you can imagine, you can make an emotional support animal, they're completely untrained, they are not a service animal.
No.
We can't say no to these bloody things, and they're causing all kinds of problems with the service animals, because you've got your untrained support animal under the seat, and a real service animal goes by, and your dog lunges out at that, because it's untrained, and we can't say no to this.
And that's going to clean up. I've been reading the industry, and they're going to be coming down on that with the airlines as well.
How do you deal with the allergies if people have allergies?
You have no rights on the planes right now.
Yeah, there used to be stuff around that, and now if you have allergies, you just have to deal with that, but if there's somebody's emotional support.
Because somebody's emotional support is more important than your health.
Yeah, so how do you deal with that when anybody can get some sort of little piece of paper saying?
They have zero jurisdiction on you, zero. They have no rights, unless it's a service animal. I always tell someone, great, send me your certification. What do you mean? Send me your certification. It'll come from the federal government. It's federally registered with a provincial stamp.
So I had a tenant in a basement suite, a little tiny basement suite, and she ended up with 2 large pit bulls in there. And they was
Of course you did.
not accepted on the lease. And at the time, I had a management company taking care of it, and they told the management company that, well, the dogs were just visiting for the day.
Of course they are.
Right? Like, so is that even allowed? Like,
You can say
They
flat
didn't-
out on
they
your
didn't
lease.
care,
I say
but-
on my lease in the back page, it's bright red, and it's initial right beside that one. Under no circumstances are pets allowed on the property, visiting or otherwise, without express written consent by the landlord or their agent. That's it.
That's really disappointing. The management company,
That's a
they didn't seem to care.
substantial
They
breach
thought it was
of
fine.
the lease.
Okay.
You know, if they did it once, drag them into court, and having a victim, yeah, probably won't happen. They keep doing it, the judge will agree if he has a substantial breach. Did the judge say, did they remove it, and has it happened since? Well, yeah, well, then they made an error in judgment. Another thing with pets, you have to be super, super careful with this, is if somebody gets a pet, I have a separate pet agreement. Your pet named Rover, it's a 1.5-year-old Shih Tzu. Pet's dying, they just get another pet. Oh, says I can have a dog. Because if you just put one dog, they'll get another dog. And they might get a Great Dane because it didn't get a pet agreement. Make yourself a little, I have pet agreements as well. Make yourself a little pet agreement form. And I even put on there that if your pet causes a disturbance, you are agreeing that I can come in there with bylaws and remove your pet, and I get them to issue that. I don't know how much strength I'd have, but it makes them think twice.
Can you touch a little bit on pet fees and pet deposits?
It's in the act, it's part of the new part of the act. I don't have it right in front of me, it's fairly new. You can charge a pet fee per month, and you can charge a non-refundable pet deposit number.
So let's say your rent is $1,500 a month, because I thought you couldn't charge more, I guess that's.
It's a non-refundable pet deposit. It's not a security deposit, you can only charge up to the rent for a security deposit.
But the pet fee can also be on top
Of the rent, yep, 100%.
We charge $50 per pet per month.
Yep, 100%. And I charge a pet deposit on top of that is 100% non-refundable if it's dog. Because I can guarantee that yard is going to be at least $300 or $400 for the damage in the spring. Guaranteed. All right, anybody here own a dog? Okay, you know what your yard's like in the spring? It's a battlefield. No matter how diligent you are, it's a freaking battlefield. It takes you a month to bring it back. And then just when it gets green, it starts snowing again.
How about springtime, the DNA testing you gotta do, because it's not my dog.
Oh yeah, of course. I can do that. Oh yeah, I'm serious. I get that all the time. Well, that was from the last penalty. They didn't have a pet. I hear that all the time. It's a common agreement. That's why getting it in writing, being ruthless right off the bat. Express how people say, does that actually happen? I still have in my lease no water beds. Just every so often one surfaces. Where the heck you get one from? I have no idea. And same thing, no fish tanks. Insurance companies will not cover you if a fish tank breaks.
Just reminded me of my question. So what about, do you have any comments about insurance?
I put right in my lease that we can only cover the property. And I get the good issue. They are 100% responsible for their own insurance. I'm changing that. I'm gonna be changed to it. They will not be permitted to even get a key until I see a copy of the insurance. You need to have a tenant that pays $10 to $15 a month.
Yeah.
Because if your property suddenly floods, guess who has to put them in a hotel? If you have insurance, if they have their own insurance, their insurance company will put them in a hotel while you fix things. And their insurance company will pay for their damaged goods. If it's your insurance, you will have to put them in a hotel and your insurance will have to pay for all their damaged goods. So you tell them flat out, no, you have to have insurance. And I usually get some brochures from AMA. There's a brochure. Let me know when you get the policy set up, bring me a copy of it. I put it right in.
Again, I think it's a little bit of education. I always let the tenant know, like this is for you, right? It's $50 a month and it's gonna cover all your stuff. Like, we can't guarantee nothing's gonna ever happen.
Yeah, it happens. We get minus 59 wind chill.
It's ensuring, you for you.
And what about if a tenant moves out and they've done damage? So I've had a property where tenants have left and they've had pets in there and they weren't allowed to, and the basement for one was like pee, like cat urine, like everywhere. You can't get that out.
Not true.
Oh, okay. Anyways, we had to like pull up carpet and stuff. And
it's still in the concrete unit. It still smells
Yeah.
like urine.
Yeah,
There's a machine called a de-ozonizer or whatever. Hazen's got one. What it is
I tried ozone.
Yeah.
I tried. Anyway.
No, this is an actual machine. When they have, I saw a full-size commercial one in a place that was involved in a fire. They stripped the drywall all off the walls. You could see some of the studs were charred. So you smell that burnt, rubber burnt wood. This machine's about half the size of a fridge. They put in there these big hazmat stickers on there, and they run it for 3 days. It recirculates every molecule on every piece of wood and floor, and there's no smell left. The smaller ones, you have to run for 3 or 4 days. You can put it in a room where there's been a cat. You tear out the carpet, but there's concrete or wood underneath it. There's wood, do an oil solution like an oil stain. Seal. Now, if it's concrete, there's no way to fix that. Clean up with bleach best you can, and then run one of those ozonators for 3 or 4 days. And make sure you don't walk in the room. It's like, it's heavy air. It'll knock you out and kill you.
But so anyways, upstairs, like they had a dog that ripped up carpet and wrecked things. And so anyways, I called my insurance company thinking that, is there some sort of coverage? So no. Is there any way to get some sort of coverage if a tenant destroys?
If they break in after you change the lock. The one I talked about last year, we had the locks changed, we had possession of the suite. The insurance company knows she broke in, the RCUP knows she broke, everybody knows she broke in. Even the female officer on the Friday night, she was waving around them. This is the letter that was inside. And they didn't take it from evidence, put it inside the unit. Everybody she was inside, she plugged the drains. That's called a break and enter. That's what your insurance is for. So having possession of the unit is very important. If you're there and that tenant's gone, you change that locks, because if you don't change that locks, your insurance won't cover you. You have to make sure you have legitimate possession.
That's what you were talking about, where you asked the question on how often do you inspect? How often can you inspect?
You can inspect, again, reasonable, so as you're not infringing on the personal enjoyment of the property. Something I've been taking into account, me and Hazen are working on. It's not in stone yet, but we're thinking about charging a flat fee, because the way the market is how do you check your property every month? First, that's astronomical to do for you, astronomical for your maintenance company, your management company. But what if you had a property worth $1,500? What's another $50? Say the property's worth $1,500 rent, and this section here is a $50 cleaning fee. We're going to have a cleaner come in once a month for $50. She's going to do some light cleaning. She's actually not doing light cleaning. We're thinking of getting a large, maybe Mary Maids or something like that, where they come out, they have a key to that unit or a punch, put a punch lock on so they can punch their in with their own code, and they go in on a designated date, set up in your lease, and what they do is they send you a quick online. Place didn't look too bad, did a little cleaning in the kitchen, did a little cleaning in the bathroom. The tenant feels they're getting something back for it. You're getting a report. There's an hour cleaning by one cleaner. The legislation we've checked in so far, it sounds like it'll work, but we have to word it correctly. And you have to word it so you're saying to the tenant, I'm getting something back to you. And this is the way it gets you checked. So the tenant pays the extra $50 and they get a free cleaning on the deal. They get an hour's cleaning. And you get a nice little crisp report in your email saying the condition. So if somebody say, I saw 2 big dogs, are you allowed dogs? Or did you know they have 7 kids? Or that there's a big hole in the carpet? Great, now you do a 24-hour inspection, time to evict.
I always like to blame the insurance company for the
Mhm.
So,
Just can't do it too often.
yeah, well, that's, but you know what? I also don't inspect all the time. And we should. It's just like when you're small, it's easy, right? It's just like when you're small, it's easy to track your rentals on the Excel sheet. But as you get bigger, you gotta get
More aggressive
proper
on the
stuff
way
to
you
do
do
it,
stuff.
right? Because it's just,
Systems.
yeah,
We're gonna try to come up with some systematic way that we can do it, that's not a cost to you, and it gives a plus to the tenant. And we think this cleaning thing might work. But we want somebody that, you just get a quick report, they get $50, so you're doing like a credit card thing, $50 to them, the tenant gives you $50.
the biggest thing that I see out there is the smoke detectors. It just drives me nuts that you go in there and they've got to take it down.
There is a way.
Or they go in there with a knife and do this until the smoke detector stops going off. And then you think it's in there, and they put their whole family at risk. But
So you can't afford it. They're covered. I've spoken to Wes just retired, at Long Lake over the last 15, 20 years. On your in reports, you put in your smoke detector, it's battery operated, you tested it, you get yourself a cheap little kit, it's called smoke in a can. So you just don't push the button. You physically press it, the smoke in a can, you spray it. It's the only way you're properly tested. You don't have to reach out, spray it, and then just take a little pen and push the button to reset it, you're done. So tested with smoke in a can, period. The tenant is now responsible for that smoke detector to let you know if it's not working. They're responsible for putting a new battery in it. It's like changing a light bulb. Tenants phone me up. They have a light bulb on the kitchen. Change the damn light bulb. The smoke detector's not working. Have we changed the battery? Well, no. Wired in ones are the best. What I like to do on mine when it comes to there's a small portion of my list that says there's absolutely no tampering with the fire and safety in the property. It comes with a $3,000 fine or up to 90 days, and I put a co-temper in there from the fire department. I got them to initial. You cannot disconnect that. They still can, they still do, they still will. Now you're covered. You've made them aware. I had the fire department come out and inspect the whole building because I had a tenant accused us of not having smoke detectors. The fire department found 3 smoke detectors. So Wes came back to me, said, "You got the moving reports?" Initial. Was working when they moved in. He went back to them and said, "You need to get one functional, or you need to get your landlord to get one functional. This isn't a fire safety issue."
what's the health?
No, the health department. Well, we're working on that. I've got a meeting with the health minister in 3 months, and we're gonna have a sit down about the health board likes to override the fire inspector. Yes. Health board likes to justify their role. The fire department is, they're the regulatory committee. They like to just make it work. Well, let's find out how we can make this work. They don't want to put you out of business.
I have a smoke alarm down the hallway by the bedrooms, away from the kitchen. There's a new one from Costco, one's the last 10 or whatever years. You take it off, there's a piece of paper over it, and it says to disable, you have to break the paper and turn the button, and once you've turned them off, you can never turn them on again. Because they're designed that way, you turn them off to throw them out. They broke through the paper, turned it off, put it back up. You can't turn them back on again. But so you have to watch that. So
The wired in ones have a light. You can look up and see that green light. That's a great thing. If they're yellow, replace them. Yellow is basically a sign that that thing's older than you are. They don't make yellow smoke detectors or speed detectors. If they're yellow, it's time to replace them.
carbon monoxide requirement.
No, carbon monoxide is not required.
Actually, and I don't know if you guys know it, but like your smoke detectors only last 10 years. So even in your own house, because we had one going off, I got it to get a replacement. I'm reading on this. The freaking thing, when they build the house, it was 3 years old because it come out of inventory somewhere, right? Because we hadn't been in the house 10 years yet. The smoke detector.
So if you get a tenant, take it off and turn it off, how do you prove you did that?
Because you wrote it in your moving report that it was functional when you moved in.
And you smoked it actually.
And there was
With them.
We tested, they tested in front of it, and then the initial binder.
But also the one I would describe had a piece, like it had a piece,
Do not remove this piece of paper.
Yeah, somebody else must have done that, because I wouldn't do that.
No,
But
but
again,
you
you
check it.
tested it,
Yeah.
it was working, so I always tell people, one of the things in my lease is it's about guests. You are 100% responsible for your guests' behavior. So if your guest, I don't care if you invited them or not, if this is your guest that's in my building sleeping in my stairwell, you're gonna face the cleanup costs. You let them in, you told them where you live. You're 100% responsible for your guest' behavior. The things I've seen for guests, I have a camera in one of my buildings, and her father's a doctor, and he metal fold-ups for the hold the mattresses, your box springs. He put it through a door and shattered the door on camera. He's like, there's nobody around. Don't tell me. Unless he can prove it was you. And his daughter, that's how he's teaching his daughter. So I basically got it repaired. I went to the doctor's office. I slid it across his doctor downtown and associate. Paying that $800 bill. He goes, you don't have any evidence. Or I can just put it on the internet. What would you like to do, sir? $800, or I put it on the internet. It's not blackmail, it's just facts. Checkbook. Kind of cursed a little bit at me, and I said, you're an idiot. You're a doctor, for crying out loud. You have a reputation. You shatter a window and tell your daughter nobody saw it. I've seen full-grown seniors spit on the wall, moving somebody in. You're responsible for your guests, family, friends, and all that.
I got a topic. You want to see Rob go from red to bright red? Okay, so keeping in mind there are some people that have had success with this topic, so here we go. The board in Edmonton are
Residential Tenancy Dispute Board. Has anyone had any experience with them?
Can you elaborate what that is?
Residential Tenancy Dispute Board. Okay.
Keep your emotions in check. Okay.
If you want an eviction done, you can go through them. They're $75. They're $25 cheaper than the provincial court. Let's just use a really simple template. Chris hasn't paid rent. Here's the landlord. He's going to spend $75 sending his application by fax. It's in Red here. They don't have an office here. Okay. They're going to hold what's called a telephone hearing. Chris is going to have access to a telephone. He's going to have access to a telephone. Mediators. It's going to be a three-way, and it's mediators. It's not a judge. It's an arbitrator that took a simple course. And most times there's someone that's retired or there's someone from the social system. Okay. You have to wonder where their background is, because where their background is, they're either leaning left or they're leaning right. If they're leaning sympathetic toward the tenant, your odds of winning that case suck. Or the odds of getting them out immediately suck. Or getting a judgment suck. Or you might get lucky and you get one that's feeling good that day. You're going to give it to the landlord. Get them out quickly. But again, every time, this is a government institution. What does government employees do? They like to justify their role, their position. So they will take 4 hours to make a judgment. It's simple. Chris hasn't paid his rent. He wants them out. The 15th hit, maybe they got a 17th date. The board 9 times out of 10, it's going to let Chris stay till the 31st. And it's going to take 4 hours of court on a phone hearing to do it. It's a nightmare. You might get the success you want, but it's difficult. It's the word I like to use, it's a crapshoot, depending on the arbitrator. You get a judge. Now, I'm not saying all judges are perfect. 1% of the time, you could get a bad judgment. Judge had a bad day, wasn't paying attention. Maybe your paperwork wasn't perfect. 99% of the time on clear-cut cases, it's 5 minutes, standing on a podium in front of a judge. I give the spiel, they are correct. Here's my standard spiel. My name is Robert Bottom, I'm an agent. What's your name?
Gord.
For Gord here, he's the landlord. I turn to the judge and I say, here's our tenant, we've identified him as the tenant. It's a clear-cut case. February 1st rolled around, no rent has been paid up to this date. There's a statement of account showing no rent paid. There's an eviction form that was done correctly, and there's a copy of the lease showing that the tenants pay rent on or before the 1st. The tenant's going to make a big scene, saying that Gord's a bad guy, he doesn't fix things, he doesn't do things, he's called the health board, he's called the parent effect. Doesn't change the fact that rent has not been paid. We would like a judgment today. It's on a Tuesday, that's what we're ready, to have the tenant out by Saturday at noon. Now, if there's a threat or something like that, maybe I'll do it sooner than that. Standard, I give them 4 or 5 days. It's reasonable. The judge looks at Chris, have you paid your rent? No. And usually the tenant goes on, look this, and the judge, have you paid your rent? That's the only question I asked you. Well, no. Okay. Turns to Gord, turns to me. When would you like them up? Again, Saturday. And he turns to me. Chris says, any reason why I should? Well, I can't find a place to live. I don't have any money. Well, there are shelters. Well, I've got 2 kids. Well, maybe you should have paid your rent, the judge says. It's got to have pretty excruciating circumstances, not grant that 5 days. However, with the Residential Tenancy Dispute Board, they're bound by nothing. I've seen them use BC legislation to rule on an Alberta thing, and I had no return. But again, I had to pay for the transcripts, were $1,500. I had to file in Court of Queen's Bench. That was another $250. The time spent was 6 hours. That was the one that I had the judgment for $5,000 against me, and I had it overturned.
Rob, I've got to dispute that a little bit.
And there are some good ones, there are some good ones.
It's because we use the RTDRS quite a bit out of Calgary, but my son, who's my partner, is in Calgary. So he goes down there and puts it in, and then, you know, we do the telephone hearing. They do, you know, you're only allowed, I think they allow an hour, but it's only a half an hour time slot, and you're usually.
The Calgary office has been making some advances.
Calgary office.
They're regulating it tight. The Calgary office, I'll give them that.
Yeah.
I've been speaking with them. They're putting a time restraint on it. And it says right in their resolution service, says if it's too complicated of a matter, they're supposed to forward it to the courtroom.
Oh.
They're supposed
So
to.
we've had good success there. This last little bit now, they've automated a lot of it, so you do it online, so the wait times. And then I faxed the paper in, which went to Edmonton, and I just had my last hearing on phone one when I was sitting in Mexico. Right? But the guy was out of Edmonton, and he never even swore at us in. But, you know, he did ask when I wanted her out, and I gave her like 2.5 weeks for her to find a place to get out and stuff like that, so he did it, but it wasn't sworn in or anything, and then, yeah.
It's very sloppy done.
Yeah.
And the chances of it being overturned, because, I mean, if a tenant has any brains, and it's gonna happen, they're gonna start getting coached by people online. They could stay it, and they want a court date anyways.
We've used it as kind of like education for the tenant, because they go there, let the tenant talk. We've got a pretty good relationship. They know us.
Yeah.
Right? And we've got a pretty good relationship, you know, with the RTDS, so when our name comes up.
Yeah, you just have to be very
they're good.
careful, because again, it's arbitrators. These aren't judges. They're, in a courtroom, it's based on facts, not hearsay.
Yeah.
And I've seen arbitrators base their judgment on hearsay. There's no facts.
We just find it's easier to let the tenant talk than they do themselves.
Yeah. And that's, yeah. But when you do have something complicated, the court is the best place to go. And if
So the court in Wetaskiwin, I've heard there's been horror stories there.
There has, and we're trying to push you to get it moved to Evenson now. And same thing with some of the stuff. We had one that was in Pinoca, we had moved to Red Deer. And it should have been in.
Okay, well, I know in Pinoca, they do it, it takes forever to get stuff, but with Wetaskiwin, I know if we get an RTDS in Pinoca, I gotta go to Wetaskiwin to get the papers.
Problem is, they just declared Service Alberta, not early Sunday, so Friday. They just declared last Friday that we now have a provincial emergency, and they're booking into March and April now.
Yeah.
For the residential tenancies. Yeah, so if you wanted somebody out in December, it's more like February. And now if you want somebody out now, it's more like looking in April. Whereas the courts are streamlining it. The judge does not allow, if it's clear cut, it's 5 minutes, it's done. And so to continue on how I do that, my spiel is gone, he awards the eviction, and then he says, anything else, Mr. Bond? I say, yes, we'd like the option to refile within 60 days under the same number, so there's no additional cost for the debt, for any potential lost rent or damages. And that gives you the option to vote back. And then I make sure, right there, I say in court, saying, in case the tenant moves out and they don't have a place of address, or they don't have a place, can we serve it to them by email? Put that in the order. Or social media, and he'll put it in the order. So tracking down the tenant is not a big deal. You can serve them by Facebook, social media, texting, you name it, but you've got to get that right. They don't cover any of that in the RTDRS. And the problem is, the reason their wait times are getting larger and larger and larger and larger is because we're getting more and more professional tenants using the system.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
the economy.
and until
in court rather than just.
and in the courts, they don't permit any of that junk. They don't permit hearsay. Like I said, I love the Bueller thing. Judge Glass loves doing that when somebody says, wow, residential tenancy suite board told me this, this, and this, and this. And the judge goes, are they here? No. Did they give you some legislation? No. Well, then I guess we're moving past that. Whereas in the residential tenancy suite board, they'll listen to, oh, I saw that on the Service Alberta website. Well, it's not legislation. The landlord said, the arbitrator goes, well, I'm going to hear it anyways. What? That's the problem with residential. You just haven't run into it yet where you've run into a professional tenant. Because some of them are starting to learn that they can use those products, and the arbitrators will let them do it because the legislation
Okay,
says.
so full disclosure here. Full disclosure, we use the RTS, get the hearing to get the tenant out, and the chances of us getting money from them is like, so we had 1 year where we walked away from, I don't know, almost $100,000 just on bad debt. But the property's still a good ROI. So to me, it was a cost of doing business, right? So I look at it as like you work in the positive energy, you want to get dragged into the negative energy.
And that's why, if you do go that route, that's why we want to hold more people accountable, but
I
See,
got
if
behind
you-
100%.
if we start holding them accountable with that 60 days, gives you a window. You repair the suites, you send the information back to me, I send it to them quickly, in an email, chances are you're right, they're not gonna show up for that hearing. So I get what's called a default judgment. I've gotten probably 6 of them in the last 2 months. One for 3,000, one for 5,000, one for 18,000. You're right, to get that 18,000 is gonna be a test. So again, wash your hands of it. You've got a judgment that says bad debt for revenue county that they owe, and you take that $18,000 and you hand it over to Hazen.
Yeah, that's the part I'm excited about, is having
Let-
somebody
let-
that'll take
let him
it, where
do
you
it.
don't have to pay them to go and chase the money.
No, well, no, he only gets paid if he collects.
And,
We're getting,
Yeah, we're good.
we're getting close to our end of the time here, so I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit more about like how we can hire you and what's his name, Rob? Hazen, right? Like,
Well,
tell me a little bit about your services, what your
Our services
charges
are,
are.
we are gonna be offering courses starting sometime in the next couple of months. We just moved our new offices over to, where the old, our enterprise rental car business used to be in Riverside. So we've got the main floor, the second floor, and a training room in the back. Our offices are upstairs, we have the U-Hauls. We're trying to put a one-stop shop. So if you did hire us for your services to evict a tenant, if you've already given the notice, we look at the notice to make sure it's legal. If it isn't, we do an amended one real quick, get it out there, and we file the court papers at the same time. The reason we file the court papers at the same time, if I give him an eviction notice really quickly, chances are there's gonna be damages and there's gonna be rental. Trying to find that person after they've moved out is a nightmare. So file it, so if they do move out, great, they still have to appear in court. If they don't appear in court, you get the default judgment for you on the damages if they don't show. So it's money invested, like you said. You've got this huge, you've got $100,000 in bad debt. And if you would have spent $7,000 on services through us, you'd probably be getting that services back. Consider the $7,000 on those 10 cases. You're starting to get money. And sometimes I had one, took 7 years, and I got a check for $7,900.
Right.
10 years later. It happens.
I just wanted just a, like I was talking, I didn't even give that away. You collected, you get to keep it all.
But you'll get
I want
checks.
that person accountable.
Yeah, exactly. You'll get the checks.
Yeah,
You'll get the checks. You'll get the checks every other month. You might get a phone call from Hazen saying, hey, they owe you, let's just use an easy number, 10 grand. Phones you and says, they've made an offer, $6,000. They'll have the money for you in a check within 24 hours, $6,000. Of course you're gonna take it. You'd be a fool not to, but Hazen's gonna have to get your okay. He gets $6,000, he takes his 30%. You end up with $4,000 and you already wrote it off. And you're only declaring income on that $4,000. And again, now that person, the next time they move into a suite, they're gonna be a little more gentle on it because it holds them accountable. Or grandpa, who paid the bad debt for my $7,900, is gonna hold his granddaughter accountable. You know, you hope, but it's better than letting them in the rotating effect that just keeps on going and going and going.
The other thing too, another portion of the collection process is once you have a judgment, can you register it with the
Equifax
or with once you have the judgment,
court agreed bench.
The court sends it through to your credit bureau, and it's on your credit bureau. And that is another means of collecting with no effort. Now, if there are people who have something to lose down the road, all of a sudden there's a judgment out there outstanding.
Some people get their lives in. This young woman walked in, she trashed the place with a drunk boyfriend. 7 years later, grandpa walks in pissed off at me because the Equifax told me that I was the guy that sent collections. I pulled out the zip drive, popped in the computer, turned the computer, showed granddad what she did. He says, he went out, grabbed his checkbook, said, this is her wedding present. Because they couldn't get a mortgage because of their bad debt.
And it's on their debt for 7 years.
No, there's no statute of limitation anymore.
No credit bureau.
Yeah, their credit report, nothing now. Equifax redid that as of January 1st. If you have bad debt, it's on you until you pay it off. It's not 7 years. It's on you until you pay it off now. Yep.
Oh,
I know.
I
I
did not know that.
January 1st, I was shocked. I saw the update from Equifax.
So any collection on your bureau will now stay on there.
It'll stay on there until it's collected.
That's good.
And they're going they want to go worldwide. They're trying to get a conglomerate of worldwide, so somebody can't move to a different country after.
Country to country, you start all
There's
over.
people that go country to country.
That's crazy.
So before we end up here tonight,
How do we find you?
I'll leave some of my business cards. They're not mine, they're my managers in the office. You can call us, you can look us up on Facebook. Bravo is how to find me on there. I'll be putting more information out as we get going. We're having our first annual meeting on March 7th at our location at 4770 Riverside Drive. All this is just a, hey, come down, meet other like-minded people, get some basic information, just like it was today. But what we want to do is we want everyone to bring their title, copy of their title. I want to start getting a collection of titles. So when I go to approach the province, I can walk in with a binder and say, hey, I represent $2.5 billion on investment property in Alberta. We have a voice and we'd like to see change. We'd like to see tenants held accountable. We want more rights as landlords. March 7th, yeah, that's at 4770 Riverside Drive.
Is there anybody in here not on the Alberta Landlord Property Owner Facebook page? If you send the request now, there's a bunch of questions you have to answer. If you send it now while I'm here, I'll approve you so you don't have to answer the questions because you're sitting here. And you can join it now because it's a pain in the butt. Just go.
It looks like this. Very colorful. That is just Facebook for now. We are looking at. You know what? Make yourself a simple one and just have one friend on here, that one. Because it's nice, and then you can make more friends within the industry. And you can even access it from your phone, you can get updates. If you have a question where you're on location and you're not sure what to do, you can put an SOS out, hey, I don't know what to do with my tenant. I come here and the locks are changed.
So how do you pay for your, I mean, I could have 50 questions for you in a couple months. How do you justify?
Alberta landlord and rental.
Well, that's a really good question. Just wait for a minute. Right here.
I guess I'm not on there.
So there's a really good question she asked. You know, what if she has 50 questions? How do we justify our rule? We've been doing it pro bono and it is getting a bit exhausting and we are getting close to 1,000 members. That's the idea behind the association. We want to look at charging a flat rate a month to belong to the association. And you can ask these questions. The database will be available. Our leases will be available. Our forms will be available. Health progress will be available.
That's what I get from Landlord, we see the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just so worth it.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to move our location so we have somewhere we can present this. And again, this is where we're going to regulate it really tight. We don't want tenants in this. That person is going to be required to show a title.
Are you Jason?
Yes.
Okay.
You guys have an open Facebook page? Because mine, I wasn't on there. I don't know. I wasn't on there, but I've seen you guys posting.
It was probably from maybe Kala or the Bad Landlord or the Tenant. There's two other ones I was describing before.
Danielle?
Yeah, and we do not, one thing that you'll see on our Facebook, we do not permit any solicitation or advertising. If you're a painter, so if somebody says, hey, I'm looking for a great painter, I'm a painter, would you like me to PM you? I've had to kick realtors, I've had to kick a broker off recently. He apologized for his behavior because we don't want someone going down the wrong path. We even had another lawyer, paralegal, that doesn't do very well, and she was seeing people's things, and then she was pleading and saying, oh, I'm a part of this. He said, I can help you for this much and this much and this much. We punched her. And we say redundant, if someone solicits you, it is against law for real estate agents to cold call. It's against the Privacy Act. So if somebody does that off our site, I've been advertising, and they're saying, if someone contacts you, please let me know. I'll remove the number, and I'll give them a polite warning, because I don't want to report anyone. Because that's a nightmare.
Who's Keith?
Keith?
Oh, there you are.
There you are.
Okay, good. See, when we do get requests, and sometimes we go through people's pages just to see if they're legitimate, and then we get pictures like this. And so this is why we're trying to balance it. So this is why you're.
Did you get my?
Yeah, you're approved. You're in. But I'm just saying that it's tough sometimes to screen people for this page.
Yeah,
Like
it's legitimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have mistakes. We're a little more diligent than the other pages, and when we do catch someone, they're gone. And again,
except you approved one of my old records.
Yeah, I was tired. It happens. We're not perfect.
Somebody owes me money trying to get in as a landlord, and so I wrote.
So this is our
approve
office number. It's the wrong address. We're at 4770 right now because we just moved, and I haven't got the new business cards.
Sorry, what's the address? 4770.
One block south of where this is.
You what? I'll just give it.
And I just want to we would like to get a voice for the government, because right now, we don't have a voice with our own government. And everybody here knows what the conservative government is like. They like to make new things, so this is our opportunity.
So just so everyone knows, it's like that first building that when you turn into Riverside Industrial Park, it's like right there on that corner.
If you see 20 or 30 U-Hauls there, you found it. But actually, as soon as it warms up, they're painting the siding bright orange. So it's gonna look like Home Depot at the entrance to Riverside Drive.
Are you on the south end of the drive?
As you come, when you cross the river going north, it's the first building, you know, when you turn down to go to the co-op? It's the first building right there. You'll see all the U-Hauls. I like having the U-Hauls because it's easy to get rid of tenant shit.
So that's right on Riverside. I was thinking
Right on Riverside. It's the first building on Riverside Drive.
Okay.
So you're driving north on Gates and then you turn off to Riverside and it's like right there.
At least they
Yep,
want-
right at the bottom of the north hill. You will be able to see it from any direction. It glows in the dark.
Great.
47.
47-7 Riverside Drive.
And what time is it? Almost 7.
March 7th, it's at 2 o'clock. So 2 to 5. We're trying to set up something for afterwards with hybrid. If anybody wants to go for a bite to eat or a drink, you know, something like that. You never know. We're expecting probably 60 to 100 people that day.
So your eviction specialist, do you help with lease signing? Like,
Yes,
can we help
yes,
with that?
we're gonna be running coaching programs, education programs. We're just getting set up in the new location.
Okay, so
We
that's
just got our
30 to 60 days out?
30 to 60 days out, but in the meantime, we're happy to help out and answer questions.
This has become more.
Chris is a
than-
retired law enforcement. Hazen is a paralegal, and I've got 20+ years in the industry itself as a real estate agent, a property manager, and an agent in the courts.
Yeah,
Hazen's
I
my-
know you.
Yeah, Hazen's my paperwork junkie. I'll be like finding something, he's like, wow, you know, there's a better way. Hey, great, that's fantastic. I'm great that 26-year-old Hazen can teach me something new. I'm all about that.
He's only 26.
26, yeah. Hazen's a bit quirky, but he's a good kid. And he knows his stuff.
Awesome. So I think, yeah, we should wrap this up and thank you so much for coming to spend the afternoon with us, Rob. It's about 5 o'clock right now. I don't think we have much time at all for deals and opportunities unless someone has something really pressing that they really want to come up with. We don't usually have many. Anyone?
Deals.
No? Like,
We do, like if there's any of us real estate investors that have come across any deals to wholesale across to someone else, or someone's looking at something, or someone selling something of their own
a great
property.
income property they might be looking for.
I do know of a property that's gonna be listed. They're from BC. I don't know who has it listed. It might be Dusty something, maybe, but it's at 3843 Eastwood Crescent. It's a fully legal suite up and down Eastview. It'll be going on the market fairly quickly, and it will be gone fairly quickly. 3843 Eastwood Crescent. That's a really good investment opportunity. Yeah, the owners of that place, I think they're full too. They live in BC, it's hard for them to take care of it here. I think they're just full, they're buying stuff back in BC now.
So I was gonna say too, these would be great guys to know, like if there's landlords out there that are trying to get rid of their properties as well and don't want to give it to a realtor necessarily, like we could still chat with Cindy or Danelle that know of other investors that like off-market properties. Because as soon as something's hit MLS, all the money's taken out of it.
Just do your diligence. As soon as you see that up and downstairs,
Yeah.
phone the city, find out if it's legal, phone the fire department, find out there's been issues, phone the health department, find out if there's been issues. Because nobody else will do it for you. You've got to do all your own paperwork.
Perfect.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Just one last little thing here in March, we have John Simcoe coming out to present. He's going to talk about sandwich lease options. So instead of street lease options, sandwich lease options, how to not just own a property and do rent to own on it. And then in April, we do have Andrea Workington actually coming in. She's from Red Deer. She's going to present on agreements for sale, her experience with it, and a little bit about what that's about for those of us that want to take over properties pretty much for really cheap and almost free. So come out for the next 2 months and it'll be good.
I know Andrea. I've had experience getting to know her some stuff and working. She's really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. And Gordon is too, like, yeah, come listen to us.
Well, thank you for coming. Have a good day.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.